I got married to a man who liked me even though I was fragile and shy. I thought we were happy, but while I was in the hospital, my husband met a beautiful divorced woman. He decided to leave me, saying I didn't work and wanted $800 a month as compensation. He went ahead with the divorce coldly. My name's Michelle, and I quietly work in an office at a real estate company. I've never been particularly interested in real estate or office work. Since I was a kid, I've been physically weak and sometimes end up in the hospital because of my internal organs, though it's not life-threatening. People were worried if I could work, especially with my health issues, but my parents suggested I try office work. I've been managing fine, even with occasional hospital stays. I've been doing well at my job, and my colleagues understand my situation. I met my husband Tony at a social gathering set up by a friend, kind of like a group blind date. I wasn't sure about romance because I thought my fragility would be a problem for anyone. I didn't date much, and before I knew it, I was over 30. My friend encouraged me, saying, "You should find someone who understands you, Michelle. Your condition doesn't affect your daily life much. Let's stay positive." So she invited me to an event. I didn't think it would work out. There were 3 men, one of whom I liked, but he seemed interested in another woman. I didn't feel particularly attractive, and the other women there seemed prettier. I had given up on finding someone there, but then Tony, who later became my husband, approached me. He was thoughtful, offering me soft drinks since I didn't drink much. But as I listened to him, I realized he wasn't the one I wanted to be close to. I dreamed of marrying someone like a top actress. Hearing his confidence made me wonder about him and even feel a bit repelled. However, despite that, he kept talking to me. He asked, "What kind of guy do you like, Michelle? Do you want to get married?" Because I was eager to get married soon, Tony kept talking to me, showing persistence. At first, I thought he was shallow, but we exchanged contacts. Surprisingly, Tony kept contacting me frequently, even asking me out. Gradually, my feelings for him grew. However, I was still worried. Why would a man with high standards and a seemingly shallow nature be interested in someone like me? When I shared my concerns about my fragile health with a friend, they explained that guys often want to appear strong and impressive at first. Despite that, my friend said Tony really seemed to like me. Believing this, I started to see Tony differently, and we grew closer. Eventually, we got married, and our first year together was truly happy. We lived in a spacious and affordable apartment that I found. Interestingly, my health issues almost disappeared, and I didn't have to go to the hospital while I was with Tony. Maybe being with him helped improve my health. Tony was considerate, and I felt confident that marrying him was the right decision. However, after a year, I started noticing changes in Tony's attitude towards me despite my weak health. ChatGPT. I managed to do basic housework, and I always cooked meals. Tony used to praise my cooking, which made me happy. But gradually, he stopped complimenting and even started complaining about the food. He'd say things like, "Is the soup a bit bland today?" Or, "I'm not really in the mood for meat today." I'm not great at cooking, so making the same tasty meal every day is tough. But until then, he never complained. Also, I can't guess what Tony wants to eat unless he tells me. I was shocked when he said he wasn't in the mood for something. Still, I loved Tony and wanted to meet his expectations. However, his attitude towards me got worse. When he came home from work, he used to cheerfully greet me with, "I'm home. Worked hard today." But he stopped doing that and instead said, "I'm tired. I want to do something fun," showing no interest. Our habit of going out on days off also disappeared. When I suggested going somewhere, he'd coldly reply, "I'm too tired to go anywhere. If you want to go, go by yourself." His behavior seemed odd, and I started feeling my health deteriorating again. It's like my body reflected my growing anxiety. Then Tony started coming home late from work and going out with friends on his days off, saying he wanted to rest. "I'll be back soon," disregarding me entirely. This behavior went beyond just being odd. It started to breed distrust in me. At the same time, my physical condition began to resemble the times I had health issues in the past. If this continued, I would end up hospitalized again, and I wanted to avoid that. Hospital stays usually last about 2 weeks, something I'd rather avoid, so I wanted to talk to Tony about our situation. One day, when he returned from an errand, I asked him honestly, "Hey, you've been acting strange, haven't you? You're cold towards me. Have you started to dislike me? If you have something to say, say it. Otherwise, I'll go crazy." But he, perhaps drunk, bluntly spoke his true feelings to me, saying, I'm not doing anything with you. I haven't started to hate you, but I don't love you anymore. Are you misunderstanding something? I dated you and even married you, you know. Besides, your income is low. I'm just stressed because there's nothing fun to do. He spoke in a detached manner. His clear and blunt words left me speechless and caused deep emotional hurt. The anger and sadness that followed were overwhelming. It was as if he didn't care about me anymore. Essentially, he had reluctantly dated and married me. This reminded me of when we first met at the mixer. I realized he had his sights on another woman, which he showed interest in another man. He turned to me, the leftover one. I thought his eagerness to marry was genuine, and I was his only viable option at that time. My fears about him being frivolous and not serious about someone like me were confirmed. As these thoughts raced through my mind, my health worsened. There was one thing I wanted to correct in Tony's words, but I no longer felt the need or desire to say it. Not wanting Tony's care, I called my workplace to inform them of my impending episode and took a taxi to the hospital. After a 2-week stay, I returned home still uncertain about how to proceed with Tony. But upon my return, he said something completely unexpected. "Oh, you're back. Did you get some rest?" I was surprised. "I knew you were weak, but I didn't expect you to be hospitalized." His way of speaking showed no concern for me at all. Thinking back, he never visited me once while I was in the hospital. True, I hadn't mentioned frequent hospitalizations when we were dating, and this was my first hospitalization since we had been together. Maybe that's why he reacted this way. But his shocking statements were yet to come. "But taking it easy in the hospital, that's a nice life, huh? Earning so little and still taking time off. Naturally, your income will decrease. I don't want to continue this boring life anymore. I'm done. A wife who doesn't work is worthless. Let's get a divorce." Tony said this without any remorse. I was dumbstruck by his sudden declaration. Then he added, "Actually, I decided something while you were in the hospital. I decided to marry this woman." He showed me a photo on his smartphone of a very beautiful woman, his new girlfriend. It confirmed what I always knew. He likes beautiful women. This woman is my childhood friend. I was surprised at how beautiful she's become when we met by chance recently. He grinned as he explained this to me. Moreover, regarding our separation, he said, "The reason for the divorce is your fault. I'm the victim because I have a wife who doesn't work. So you should pay me compensation of $800 a month. It's your punishment for using me for so long." He expected me to pay despite thinking my income was low and him, the victim. How twisted could his thinking be? I was shocked to face such a situation soon after returning from the hospital, but I quickly regained my composure and honestly thought, this means I can separate from him right away. Deep down, I had already reached this conclusion. It's best to part ways with him. But divorcing so soon after getting married. Surprisingly, I was conscious of what others would think. However, his current behavior was a wake-up call. I decided to accept his demands, so I took out the divorce papers I had prepared earlier, signed my name, and handed them to him. "All right, if you have a new fiancé, I understand. Here are the divorce papers. Sign them quickly," I said. He looked surprised for once and said, "Oh, that was quick. Sometimes you do think. Now we can get divorced." He signed the papers, reading and handed them back to me, saying, "Don't forget about the compensation. Start transferring it by the end of this month." Then he went back to his room. He must have been surprised. He didn't expect me to comply so easily. But I had been contemplating divorce anyway. It was just a matter of time. However, I hadn't accepted everything he said. Compensation, that's another story which he'll realize later. A week or so after moving out of the house I shared with Tony, my health was stable, and I was going about my daily life. After work one day, I checked my phone and saw over 200 missed calls from an unknown number. What? Over 200 missed calls? When I opened the history, Tony's name was listed repeatedly. Seeing this, I couldn't help but feel relieved because I knew why he had been calling. When I called him back, his panic was obvious. "Hey, I got a demand for $50,000 in compensation. That's too much, don't you think?" But how could he not understand without an explanation? "Well, you were cheating on me with your fiancé. While we were still married, right?" Was her name Hillary Johnson? "She's really beautiful, isn't she?" He was flustered when I mentioned her name. "What are you talking about? More importantly, how do you know her name?" The answer was simple. Why do I know? Because I hired a detective. Your actions were obviously suspicious, so I decided to ask for a little help. They contacted me right away, saying it was a definite case. They even showed me proof photos. According to the latest information, you had her stay over at our house just 3 days ago. Right, by the way, I filed for divorce the day before yesterday, so we were still married 3 days ago. Telling him this, he looked like he was about to explode. He had demanded compensation from me, but this was why I refused to accept that part. Detectives are amazing, but they sure cost a lot of money. When I mentioned that, he nervously asked, "That's true, but you don't have that kind of money, do you?" But that was just his misconception. Indeed, my salary as an office worker wasn't significant, but now I'm ready to reveal the truth. I wanted to counter when he called me low income, but I do have about $400,000 in rental income. The reason being, my father is the president of the real estate company. I work for the company passed down from my great-grandfather, which owns roughly 100 buildings and apartments. My father put several of those properties in my name, perhaps his way of showing love. So, the rent from those properties goes into my account. However, he always told me to do my best in my office job. Tony always assumed I was just a weak, low-income office worker but was quite shocked to learn the truth. Seriously, you should have said that earlier. He realized he had let go of a big fish. If he had treasured me, he could have had a lot of fun, but his misfortune didn't end there. So, the apartment you're living in now is actually mine. I just picked it because it was vacant. That's why there was no rent, but if you continue living there, the rent is $2,000 a month. Looks like your entire monthly salary is going to be gone. He always claimed I was low income, but his salary wasn't great either. That's why I chose one of my properties for him. Now it might be too late to tell him. And then another tragedy struck him. The beautiful fiancée, Hillary, apparently got to know the truth. It seems she was being claimed for compensation as his affair partner, and naturally, the engagement was called off, and she disappeared from Tony's life. Tony, having spent his meager salary and even borrowed money to impress Hillary, ended up with nothing in the end. It's a result of his arrogance and lack of effort, thinking he could land a big catch without trying. As a result, Tony lost his wife, his home, and his new fiancée in an instant. All that remained was his considerable debt. Finally, he said to me, "Hey, let's give it another try. You're the one for me, after all." Such a desperate statement. But without it, he would have an even more boring life than before. However, as far as I'm concerned, he no longer means anything to me. But you would say you were just with me because you had no choice, right? Don't worry about me. I'll be fine, I replied casually and decided to end the call. His calls continued, but they were so annoying that I blocked his number. Since then, he has been evicted from the apartment and lives in a shabby place, struggling with debt. He works from morning till night, but another hardship hit him. Hillary's acquaintances, tough-looking guys, found out where he lived and started threatening him. "You're going to pay the compensation she's being charged with too." While their methods are forceful, what they say isn't unreasonable. After all, Hillary was deceived. Thus, Tony's debt only grew. Now he's so dispirited that no one wants anything to do with him. As for me, I'm in good health, free from major stress. The episodes have stopped, and overcoming this huge obstacle has perhaps made me mentally stronger. My office work no longer suffers, and my parents are happy. Now I focus on not stressing myself and being honest with my feelings. When asked about my next relationship, I think I'll stay away from it for a while. Work has become enjoyable, and I find it fulfilling. Before thinking about romance, I plan to travel, something I couldn't do before due to my health concerns.
My hands trembled as I held the envelope, my name scrawled across it in jagged handwriting. I didn't recognize the writing, but the words inside cut deep. "Your husband is not who you think he is. Ask him about Elise." Elise. My mind raced, my heart pounding. Derek wouldn't, he couldn't. I grabbed my phone, fingers fumbling. "Jenna, it's me. We need to talk now." I paced the living room, bile rising in my throat as I waited for her to arrive. This had to be a sick prank, a cruel joke. Derek and I had our troubles, but he'd never betray me like this. Would he? Jenna burst through the front door, face etched with concern. "What's going on? What's happened?" Wordlessly, I handed her the note. She scanned it quickly, eyes widening. "Who sent this?" "I don't know. It just arrived today." Jenna guided me to the couch. "Breathe, hon. We'll figure this out." Anger flared suddenly. "Figure what out? That my husband's screwing around behind my back with someone named Elise?" Jenna squeezed my hand. "You don't know anything yet. This could just be a fake letter, trying to cause trouble." I sighed, my rage dissolving. You're right. I can't believe he'd do this to me. Not after everything. Not after the infidelity years ago, the counseling, his remorse, the promise we'd never go through that again. Jenna pursed her lips. I'll ask Alex to look into it, discreetly. If anything turns up, I swallowed hard. Did I even want to know? The next few weeks crawled by in agonizing slow motion. I scrutinized Derek's every move, looking for cracks in his routine. He seemed the same as always, if a bit distracted. More anonymous letters arrived, hinting at secrets. Elise's name echoed in my mind. Alex uncovered the first clues. Records of lavish gifts, a paper trail linking Derek and someone named E. Montgomery, but no concrete evidence of an affair. Until the phone records. Late-night calls and texts to a number I didn't recognize. Thousands of them over the past 6 months. No way it was for business. Rage simmered in my veins. How could he do this to us? After everything we'd survived? I confronted Derek one night after work, casting aside pretense. Who is she, Derek? He froze. What are you talking about? Don't play dumb. Who's Elise? Are you sleeping with her? Panic flitted across his face. No, of course not. There's no one else, I swear. I slammed the phone records down. Then explain this. Explain the gifts you sent her, the trips you took together. Explain the constant calls and texts behind my back. Derek paled. Marlene, please. My hands clenched. How long, Derek? How long have you been lying to me, betraying our vows, making a fool of me? Tears filled his eyes. I never meant. I love you, Marlene. Please let me fix this. I turned away, disgusted. Save it. I'm done with your lies. I had my proof now. My husband's betrayal laid bare. This was only the beginning. I would make him pay for every sleepless night, every moment he made me doubt myself, for breaking vows and my heart all over again. Derek would regret the day he ever heard the name Elise. How could he do this to me again? I fumed, pacing Jenna's living room. Jenna perched on the couch, lips pressed in a thin line. Derek's always been selfish. I warned you when you took him back the first time. I whirled to face her. I thought he'd changed. I thought our marriage meant something to him. Clearly it didn't. Alex's voice was grim. Once a cheater, always a cheater. Jenna shot him a look before turning back to me. What matters now is how you want to handle this. Derek betrayed your trust in the worst possible way. If you want to walk away... Oh, I'm not walking away, I cut in. I'm going to make him pay. Alex raised an eyebrow. What did you have in mind? I took a deep breath. I want to hit him where it hurts. I know things about Derek, secrets he's tried very hard to hide. Like the debt he'd racked up trying to climb the corporate ladder. All those business trips that were just excuses to gamble. I think it's time his pretty little mistress learned the truth about the man she's been spin-screwing. My voice dripped contempt. Once I expose who Derek really is, his affair with Elise will implode. Then I'll take him for everything he's worth. Jenna nodded slowly. All right, if you're sure this is what you want. I've never been more sure of anything. We ironed out a plan over the next few weeks, gathered every shred of evidence about the affair and Derek's lies. Elise thought she was sleeping with an ambitious executive. I couldn't wait to shatter that illusion. I bided my time, pretending I knew nothing, acted the dutiful wife while Derek carried on behind my back. Finally, the perfect opportunity arose, a family dinner at Derek's parents' country club. His parents had always thought I was beneath their precious son. Time to show them how wrong they were. I wore Derek's favorite black dress, wanting to look every inch the calm, confident wife. His parents greeted me with thin smiles and tight hugs. We sat down to dinner, the air simmering with tension. I made idle small talk, waiting for the right moment. Finally, when a lull hit midway through the main course, I struck. Derek, don't you have some news for your parents? I kept my tone light and sweet. Derek's fork froze halfway to his mouth. What are you talking about? I tilted my head. Oh, I just thought you might want to tell them about the new baby on the way. They're going to be grandparents after all. His mother gasped. A baby? But why wouldn't you tell us? I turned to her with mocking sympathy. I'm sure Derek was just waiting for the right time, though it is a bit tricky since the mother is his mistress Elise. Chaos erupted. Derek sputtered denials while his parents shouted recriminations. I sat back and watched it unfold with grim satisfaction. Finally, I slammed my hands on the table, silencing the room. I nudged Derek with contempt. Go on then. Tell them. Tell them what a lying, cheating failure you are. Derek shrank under my glare. When he stayed silent, I continued, relishing every word. You want to know who your son really is? A liar, a fraud, up to his eyeballs in gambling debt. He used company money to finance trysts with his little whore. I slapped the proof down in front of his ashen parents. So much for your perfect son, but I'm done covering for him. We're over, Derek. I quit. Let his house of cards collapse. I would be there to watch it crumble with a smile on my face. The fallout from the family dinner was swift and severe. Derek bombarded my phone with texts and voicemails, begging for another chance. His parents cut off contact completely, no doubt mortified by their son's disgrace. I ignored it all, refusing to let them guilt me into silence. They made their choices. Now they would face the consequences. The anonymous letters kept coming, hinting at secrets only Derek's mistress could know. I added them to the mounting pile of evidence. Soon, I would have enough to bury them both. I dove back into work, determined not to let Derek's betrayal affect my performance. The office rumor mill churned with speculation about my failing marriage and Derek's tawdry affair. I held my head high through it all. Let them talk. I had nothing to hide. Weeks later, Jenna called with an urgent discovery. That mistress of Derek's? Her name's not Elise, it's Lisa. Lisa Montgomery. My breath caught. Montgomery? As in Silas Montgomery? Silas headed Montgomery Holdings, one of our biggest rivals. If Derek was sleeping with his daughter... This goes deeper than we thought, Jenna said grimly. Derek wasn't just cheating on you. He was using your marriage to get close to Montgomery Holdings through Lisa. Red-hot rage flooded me. My hands curled into fists. Bad enough Derek betrayed our vows again. He'd also jeopardized my career and reputation for his own gain. That bastard, I seethed. He doesn't just want to destroy our marriage, he wants to destroy me. We're not going to let that happen. Jenna's voice hardened. I've been digging into Montgomery Holdings. They're not as clean as they pretend to be. My pulse quickened. What do you mean? Let's just say they have their fair share of skeletons. If this affair goes public, it could take down both Derek and Montgomery. I remembered Silas Montgomery's smug smile at the last trade conference, so assured of his dominance over my family's company. The thought of watching his empire crumble along with Derek's made my blood sing. Do it, I told Jenna. Full nuclear exposure. I want everyone to see their lies. I felt a perverse thrill making the plans, like pieces slotting into place. All those years bowing and scraping to get ahead, and for what? Men like Derek and Silas who used and abused anyone foolish enough to trust them. No more. I was done playing nice. The anonymous notes kept arriving, each more ominous than the last. Threats about what would happen if I didn't back down. Lisa clearly realized I wasn't going away quietly. I added the letters to the stack of evidence. Let Derek and his mistress threaten all they wanted. They couldn't intimidate me into silence. Not anymore. For the first time in years, I felt fully empowered. I walked taller, spoke up louder. Derek's betrayal had lit a fire in me, forged me into someone new, someone who wouldn't be pushed around or dismissed. Let them keep underestimating me. They had no idea what was coming. The day of reckoning had arrived. I woke up energized, ready to finally confront Derek and expose his lies. I dressed for battle, in a sharp black pantsuit and heels. Slicked on bold, red lipstick, armor against whatever vitriol Derek threw at me. I felt strong, unbreakable. At the office, I breezed through my morning meetings, anticipation thrumming under my cool exterior. I messaged Jenna and Alex. It's time. During lunch, I asked Derek to meet me in a private conference room. He arrived looking guarded, clearly expecting me to grovel. Not this time. I slid a file folder across the table. Do you know what this is? Derek eyed me warily as he opened it, then paled. Where did you get these? I smiled coldly. Records of all your little trips to the casino, the ones you claimed were for business, gambling away company money to fund your habit. I slapped down another folder. And let's not forget the mountain of debt you've accumulated. Tell me, does your mistress Lisa know about your financial issues? Or did you lie to her like you lied to me? Derek shoved back his chair. Enough. I won't sit here and listen to these outrageous accusations. My hand shot out, clutching his wrist. Oh no, you're going to sit here and listen to every word, unless you want these files leaked to the board. I held his gaze. Well? Sweat beaded his forehead. Slowly, he sat back down. I smiled, all ice. That's what I thought. I slid the divorce papers across the table. Derek stared at them, dumbstruck. Sign them. This marriage is over and you know it. When he still hesitated, I pressed harder. Come on, Derek. Sign the papers so you can run to Lisa with a clear conscience. She is pregnant, isn't she? His head jerked up, eyes wide with shock. I waved a hand. Oh, please. You didn't actually think I was ignorant about your affair this whole time, did you? I leaned forward. Now sign, or everyone we know will find out exactly what kind of man they married. Your choice. With shaking hands, Derek scrawled his signature on the paperwork. I gathered the file folders and stood abruptly. Our lawyers will be in touch about the divorce settlement. Don't even think of trying to screw me over, Derek. You know I can and will destroy you if you do. I walked steadily from the room, head high. The confrontation had gone even better than I planned. Now for the final blow. At dinner that evening, I sat waiting with Jenna and Alex. Derek's parents arrived first, both tense. When Derek joined us, I shared a knowing look with Jenna. Time to light the final fire. We made it through the salad course before I broke the silence. Well, Derek, don't you have an announcement for your parents? Derek paled. Before he could respond, I continued cheerfully. Derek's going to be a father. Isn't that lovely news? A hush fell over the table. Then came the explosion. Derek's parents shouted and raged as Derek sat, condemned. I watched it all with grim satisfaction, the inferno I'd stoked consuming them completely. Finally I stood, silencing the room. I faced my in-laws, triumph surging through me. You're welcome to the cheating mess of a son you raised. Consider this my official resignation from this family. I'm done covering for him. I strode out without looking back, Derek's shouts echoing behind me. I'd laid waste to everything he valued. Now to focus on building myself back up from the ashes. The fallout from my confrontation with Derek was immediate. He blew up my phone, leaving pleading voicemails and apologetic texts. His parents called too, demanding I reconsider. I ignored them all. The time for mercy was over. Jenna came over to debrief. That was an epic takedown. How are you holding up? I sighed. Relieved it's finally out in the open, but I want to make sure he doesn't get away with this. She nodded. What do you need from me? I want to go after Derek financially in the divorce, bleed him dry, and I want to destroy his reputation. Jenna raised an eyebrow. Playing hardball, I like it. I can start drafting aggressive terms for the settlement. Good, he doesn't get to walk away from this unscathed. My phone buzzed with yet another pleading message from Derek. Delete. What about his mistress, Lisa? Jenna asked. Any plans there? I smiled slowly. Oh, yes. She wanted Derek so badly, she can have what's left of him. I'd spent years buried under Derek's lies. Never again. From now on, people would know exactly who they were dealing with. While Jenna handled the legal side, Alex and I planned Derek's social downfall. A few anonymous tips later, and the story of his tawdry affair and excessive gambling spread like wildfire through the office gossip channels. Derek was promptly placed on leave, pending an ethics investigation. I saved the damning evidence to leak publicly, if needed. With Derek's reputation in tatters, I asked Alex to dig deeper on Lisa. There had to be more ammunition we could use against her. Sure enough, he uncovered her damaging history as a homewrecker. Other affairs, broken engagements, manipulated men. She was a predator, and Derek her latest prey. Armed with the information, I reached out to her directly for the first time. Lisa, we need to talk, woman to woman. She agreed to meet for coffee. As we sat staring at each other over lattes, I felt only cold contempt for the woman sitting across from me. Calculating, manipulative, cruel. She and Derek deserved each other. I slid a file over to her. I assume you know who I am. Lisa glanced through the photos and records inside, then paled. Where did you get these? That's not important. What is important is that you stay away from my husband. She stiffened. Ex-husband. And I'll do as I please. I leaned forward. I know women like you, Lisa. You target married men to satisfy some twisted need for power. I'm sure Derek spun quite the tale to get in your bed. I tapped the file. But lies don't hold up forever. The truth has a way of coming out. I held her gaze. Leave Derek. Focus on that baby, if it's even his, because if you don't, everyone you've ever crossed paths with will learn exactly what kind of person you are. I guarantee it. I left a shaken Lisa behind. Let her worry, Derek would learn the truth too. I wanted her constantly looking over her shoulder, like I'd had to do. Jenna was right. Playing hardball felt good. Taking back my power, exposing the ugliness Derek tried to hide, felt damn near euphoric. No more being the dutiful, forgiving wife. That woman died the day I learned Derek betrayed me again. Now someone new had risen from her ashes, someone who would never be used or dismissed again. I had been reborn, and it was time for my new life to begin. After exposing Derek's lies, I finally felt free. No more constantly looking over my shoulder, wondering when the next betrayal would come. It was liberating. The divorce proceedings advanced swiftly with the mountain of evidence against Derek. My lawyer assured me I'd get everything I asked for in the settlement. Derek didn't stand a chance. His mom still called frequently, pleading with me to give her son another chance. I blocked her number. They'd all shown their true colors. Now, they could live with the consequences. A few weeks later, Jenna called me grimly. "We have a problem. Lisa's still in the picture. Derek convinced her the baby is his." I pinched the bridge of my nose. Of course he did. Derek could charm his way out of anything when backed into a corner. "She's pressuring him to get shared custody in the divorce," Jenna continued. Playing happy new family. An icy rage filled me. So they thought they could try and play me, even now? Like hell. Set up a family dinner. Here, I want them all under one roof. Time for the final reckoning with Derek, Lisa, and his toxic parents. No more manipulating shadows, everything out in the open. On the night, I dressed in black armor again, bold red lipstick my war paint. Jenna and Alex arrived first, grimly determined. Right on time, Derek walked in with his parents flanking him on either side. Lisa trailed behind, wearing a dress stretched tight over her swollen belly. I greeted them with a shark-like smile. So nice to have the whole family together again. We sat, tension simmering. I kept the conversation light, biding my time, waiting until the main course was served before dropping my first verbal bomb. "Lisa, you're positively glowing. When are you due?" She blinked, hand going instinctively to her belly. Early next month. How exciting. Derek must be thrilled to welcome his first child." Across the table, Derek paled. Lisa shifted in her seat. "Yes, well, we're both very happy." "I'm sure," I smiled pleasantly. "Though didn't you tell me you two only started seeing each other last fall? What an accelerated timeline." The table went silent. Lisa's eyes widened fractionally. "Gotcha. Derek's mom recovered first." "That's enough now, Marlene. Stop these ugly accusations." I ignored her, focusing on Lisa. "Sweetie, surely you're aware Derek was still very much with me when you supposedly got pregnant? I hope he at least told you the truth about our relationship timeline." "You lying bitch," Derek spat. "Don't pretend our marriage was some happy fantasy. You checked out years ago." I shook my head. "And whose fault was that, Derek? Or have you forgotten your chronic habit of screwing anything that walks?" Chaos erupted. Lisa accused Derek of deceit. He shouted desperately, appealing to his parents for backup. They in turn screamed at me for causing a scene. Finally, I slammed my hand down, fed up. "Enough, I'm done with the lies." I locked eyes with Lisa. "That baby is not his." Stunned silence. Lisa's hand clutched her belly. "How dare you?" I tossed the paternity test results down with a thwop, watching the color drain from Derek's face. No more hiding. Lisa dissolved into tears. Derek vehemently denied it, but I could see the truth dawning in his eyes. They'd tried to play me, and lost. Badly. Checkmate. I stood up calmly and addressed Lisa. "You want Derek? You can keep him, but this ends tonight. We're done." I turned and strode away, finally free. Let Derek and Lisa turn on each other. My hands were clean. The family dinner felt like a tipping point. After exposing Lisa's lies, it was all finally crumbling for her and Derek. Lisa disappeared from the social scene, no doubt embarrassed by the entire affair. Derek bombarded me with angry texts, but I stood firm. We were over. Professionally, things shifted in my favor too. With Derek disgraced, upper management started relying on me more. I stepped up, determined to prove myself. A few weeks later, Jenna called me excitedly. "You're never going to believe who just reached out to me." "Who?" "Liam Montgomery, Lisa's ex-husband." I sat up straighter. "This was an interesting development. What did he want?" "To talk to you. Apparently you two have a common enemy." I considered this. Liam had divorced Lisa years earlier under mysterious circumstances. If anyone knew secrets I could use against her, it was him. Set up a meeting, but discreetly. If word got back to Derek or Lisa, Jenna agreed. I'll handle it. This could be the ammunition we need to finally shut them down for good. We met Liam at a small cafe downtown. I studied the handsome, well-dressed man as he approached. He had a wounded air about him, despite the tailored suit and easy smile. Marlene, thank you for meeting me. We exchanged pleasantries before I cut to the chase. What do you want with me, Liam? His face darkened. Straight to business, I appreciate that. We have a common enemy in your husband and my ex-wife. I raised an eyebrow. Go on. I have information that could ruin them both socially and professionally, but I'll only share if we work together. I considered his offer. Liam had resources and insider access at his family's company. Combined with my evidence against Derek, we could inflict real damage. I extended my hand. You have a deal. Liam broke into a sharp grin. Excellent. We hashed out a plan to strategically leak information about Derek's unethical behavior and Lisa's sordid history. A coordinated takedown. Within days, the gossip rags were buzzing with sordid rumors about Derek's gambling and Lisa's affairs. The business journals questioned shady dealings at Montgomery Holdings. Their reputations were being shredded. But I wasn't done yet. Liam came through with one final bombshell. Evidence linking Lisa and Derek to corporate espionage against my family's company. Enough proof for authorities to get involved. I called an emergency meeting with the executives and board members, Liam by my side. As we presented the damaging documents, outrage erupted around the room. Derek's treachery went deeper than any of us realized. He'd abused his position to undercut the very company that had given him a career. The board immediately voted to fire Derek and pursue criminal charges. Justice was finally being served. As we left the meeting, Liam turned to me. I know this was about revenge for you, but I wanted to say thank you. Exposing Lisa and Derek, it brought me closure too. I saw the sincerity in his eyes. Liam hadn't just been motivated by payback. He needed to regain control after Lisa destroyed his life too. I understood completely. Of course. And thank you for having the courage to come forward. I'm just sorry you got caught in Lisa's web too. Liam nodded, looking thoughtful. You know, now that it's all over, maybe we could get dinner sometime. I considered him handsome, successful, principled. A man I knew I could trust. I'd like that, I replied, and I meant it. With Derek ruined professionally and Lisa in hiding, I decided to make my final move, seizing control of the company from Derek's family. As acting head of the business, I reviewed operations with a critical eye, building an airtight case for mismanagement under my father-in-law's leadership. With Liam's help, I also uncovered financial irregularities suggesting embezzlement. The old guard had been bleeding the company dry for years. No more. I called an emergency shareholders meeting and presented the damning evidence. When I proposed a vote of no confidence in the current leadership, the motion passed swiftly. The board named me as interim CEO. After the meeting, I stopped by my father-in-law's office. He sat grimly packing his possessions into a box. I hope you're satisfied, taking everything from our family. His voice shook with bitterness. I tilted my head. Satisfied? No, I won't be satisfied until your toxic son is permanently out of my life. My father-in-law slammed his fists on the desk. Damn you, Marlene. Derek loved you. I laughed coldly. Loved me? Is that what you call his chronic affairs and betrayals? I leaned in close, punctuating each word. He never loved me. With that, I walked out, leaving the old man fuming impotently. One chapter closed. With the company secure, I turned my attention to finalizing the divorce. My lawyer was ruthlessly efficient, securing me the house, investments, and a generous settlement in return for keeping Derek's misdeeds quiet. The day the papers were signed, I invited Jenna over to celebrate. I raised a glass. Here's to new beginnings. She clinked her glass against mine. To new beginnings, and Marlene 2.0, who takes no shot from anyone. I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in years. Derek was finally out of my life for good. Marlene 2.0, I liked the sound of that. A few weeks later, Liam took me out to dinner at an upscale restaurant downtown. Over wine and candlelight, our talk turned serious. I have to confess, I had an ulterior motive asking you here tonight, Liam said. I want to make this, us, official. He took my hands in his. You are an extraordinary woman, Marlene. I know we started off with revenge in common, but what I feel goes so much deeper now. I looked into his earnest eyes and saw genuine emotion there, a real second chance. I feel the same way, I confessed. I tried to deny it at first, but you've shown me I can love and trust again. I want that future with you. Liam broke into a smile. Then let's build it together. The next day, he accompanied me to Derek's mother's palatial estate. I handed her a copy of the divorce decree. It's done. Your son is dead to me now in every way. I trust there will be no further contact from any of you. My former mother-in-law glared. You'll regret this, Marlene. I glanced at Liam and squeezed his hand. No, I don't think I will, but Derek will, for the rest of his life. We walked out together into the sunshine, leaving the toxic past behind. I had everything I needed right beside me. The story of my marriage's ugly implosion made headlines for a while, but I held my head high through the gossip and whispers. I had nothing to hide anymore. In time, new scandals seized the public's attention. My reputation recovered, stronger than ever. With Liam as my partner, I transformed the company into a thriving modern business, and I took my rightful place as CEO on my own terms. My past self was gone, a distant memory. Now a powerful, unstoppable woman had risen in her place. Unbreakable, unstoppable, unleashed at last. This was my time now. You think you married a simple girl, but you're clueless about who I really am, I whisper under my breath, my fingers tightening around the edge of the kitchen counter. The cold marble does little to soothe the burning fury inside me, ignited by Ronan's words slicing through the air from the living room. His laughter, laced with disdain, seeps through the walls, a stark contrast to the silence enveloping me in my refuge. I mean, Alara's great and all, but she's not exactly the brightest. Got lucky marrying into our family, if you ask me, Ronan boasts on the phone, his voice dripping with a condescension that's become all too familiar. My heart races, every beat a reminder of the drastic shift our marriage has taken. From the charming suitor who'd once courted me with grand gestures and sweet nothings, to the man who now finds sport in belittling his wife to his friends. The transformation wasn't overnight, but the descent from indifference to outright contempt and control was swift. Working in my mother's boutique was supposed to be a temporary arrangement, a way to help out while searching for something more aligned with my degree. Yet here I stand, years later, still folding clothes and dodging my husband's barbs about my lack of ambition. If only you knew, I mutter to the empty room, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. Ronan's voice grows louder, pulling me from my thoughts. Honestly, thought her family had more money. You know, with the boutique and all. Turns out, not so much. The revelation stings, not because of the truth in his words. Our financial struggles are no secret to me, but because of the implication. He married me under false pretenses, his affections as fabricated as the persona he paraded during our courtship. The facade crumbles a little more each day, revealing the true extent of his expectations. A hefty dowry, and a wife who would bend to his every whim. But beneath the veneer of the compliant spouse, a storm brews, fueled by the discovery of his hidden debts and gambling habits. The weight of his duplicity presses down on me, a constant reminder of the life I've been ensnared in. A plan begins to form, vague and unrefined, but it's a start. A way out of the shadows, to cast light on the man behind the mask. The thought is both terrifying and exhilarating. Patience, I remind myself, echoing my mother Sylvia's advice. She doesn't know the full extent of Ronan's transgressions, but she's always sensed the turmoil beneath my calm exterior. The sound of Ronan ending his call pulls me back to the present, the immediate need to conceal my turmoil paramount. I straighten, schooling my features into a mask of indifference before stepping back into the living room. Ronan doesn't spare me a glance, too engrossed in his phone, and for a moment, I'm grateful for the neglect. The evening passes with minimal interaction, a dance we've perfected over the months. But as I lay in bed, Ronan's snores filling the room, I can't help but feel the shift within me. The veil has lifted, and with it, the resolve to no longer be the victim in my own story. Tonight, the seeds of rebellion are sown, watered by the bitter tears of realization and the silent vow of retribution. Tomorrow, I begin to fight back, armed with the truth and the determination to reclaim my life from the ruins of a marriage built on deceit. The sun hadn't even crept through the curtains before Ronan's voice pierced the morning silence, a harbinger of the storm to come. "Alara, what's this? The coffee tastes like mud." His words, sharp and unforgiving, slice through the last remnants of sleep clinging to my consciousness. I must have mixed up the measurements, I stammer, my voice barely above a whisper as I rush to his side, mug in hand. The truth is, the coffee is the same as it always is, but with Ronan, any minor deviation, or imagined one, is grounds for criticism. Useless, he mutters under his breath, pushing the mug into my hands with such force that the hot liquid sloshes over the sides, scalding my skin. I wince, but dare not let the pain show. Showing weakness only fuels his disdain. As I turn to remake the coffee, trying to steady my trembling hands, Ronan's voice follows me, relentless. And make sure breakfast is ready on time today. I have an important meeting. Can't afford to be late because you're dawdling. The morning wears on, each moment laden with tension. Breakfast is a silent affair, Ronan buried in his phone, occasionally throwing out commands or criticisms. The eggs are too runny, the toast not crisp enough. It seems there's no end to his displeasure. It's during these moments, caught in the cyclone of Ronan's demands, that I ponder the drastic change in him. The man I married, who once spoke of love and partnership, now sees me as little more than a servant in his grand scheme of life. The realization stings, a bitter pill swallowed daily. The door slams shut behind him, a temporary reprieve from his tirades. But the silence left in his wake is heavy, a constant reminder of the farce my life has become. I clear the breakfast dishes, my movements automatic, thoughts miles away. It's in this mechanical state that I find the envelope, used hidden beneath a pile of unopened bills, a reminder of another of Ronan's secrets. His gambling habits, once a mere whisper of concern, have ballooned into a full-blown storm, threatening to engulf us both. The numbers scrawled across the bills are astronomical, figures that we can't possibly hope to cover with the boutique's modest earnings and Ronan's dwindling salary. I sit, the weight of the envelope in my hands, a tangible symbol of the lies and deceit that have woven their way through our marriage. It's this moment, this tangible proof of Ronan's betrayal, that solidifies my resolve. No longer can I stand idly by, a spectator in my own life. The day drags on, each tick of the clock a reminder of the evening confrontation that awaits. When Ronan returns, his mood is foul, the remnants of whatever transpired at his meeting written clearly across his face. Before I can brace myself, he's upon me, his words a torrent of blame and anger. Do you have any idea how much pressure I'm under? And what do I come home to? A wife who can't even make a decent cup of coffee. The accusations sting, but they also fuel a fire within me. Ronan, we need to talk about the bills. The gambling debts. We can't. He cuts me off with a scoff, his eyes narrowing. Oh, so now you're keeping tabs on me? I work day in, day out, and this is the thanks I get? The argument spirals, his anger a palpable force that threatens to consume the room. But amidst the chaos, a clarity settles over me. This isn't just about surviving Ronan's tirades anymore. It's about reclaiming my life, piece by shattered piece. I won't let you drag us down with your debts, I assert, my voice steadier than I feel. We're going to fix this, but not like this. Not with lies. Ronan's response is a sneer, a promise of more battles to come. But as I stand my ground, I realize that this is just the beginning. The facade of our marriage has crumbled, revealing the rot beneath. And it's up to me to clear the wreckage, to forge a path out of the despair Ronan has cloaked us in. A year into our marriage, the facade of harmony has not just cracked but shattered, revealing the grim reality of our union. Ronan's abuse, both verbal and emotional, has escalated, pushing me into a corner of isolation and despair. Yet, it's in this darkness that a plan begins to take shape, a beacon of hope in the relentless storm. Sitting across from my mother, Sylvia, in the dim light of the boutique after hours, I finally muster the courage to voice the truth. Mom, Ronan's not who we thought he was. The gambling, the debts, it's worse than I ever imagined. Sylvia's expression, a mix of concern and resolve, doesn't waver. Alara, you've been carrying this burden alone for too long. It's time we face this head on. But how? He's made it clear he won't change. And now, there's talk of selling the boutique to cover his debts. I confess, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. We won't let that happen, Sylvia asserts, her voice firm. It's time Ronan understood the consequences of his actions. We've been silent for too long. The strategy we devise is simple, yet daring. We'll confront Ronan, not with accusations, but with the stark reality of our financial situation. It's a gamble, but one we're willing to take to expose his true motives. The opportunity presents itself one evening when Ronan, in a rare moment of calm, mentions the boutique. "Alara, we need to talk about selling. It could solve a lot of our problems." Standing in our living room, I feel Sylvia's supportive presence behind me as I face him. "Ronan, the boutique isn't the problem, it's the solution. Your gambling is what's brought us here." Ronan's reaction is immediate, his face contorting with anger. "So this is my fault? I'm working day and night, and you blame me?" "It's not about blame. It's about reality. Your debts are drowning us, and selling the boutique won't fix that," I reply, my voice steady despite the shaking of my hands. Sylvia steps forward, her demeanor unyielding. "The boutique has been in our family for generations. It's not just a business, it's our legacy, and we won't let it be destroyed by recklessness." Ronan's gaze shifts between us, a mixture of surprise and defiance in his eyes. "You think you can dictate what I do? It's my name on the line." "But it's our lives at stake," I counter, emboldened by my mother's strength. "We're willing to work with you, Ronan, but not at the expense of our future." The standoff ends with Ronan storming out, his threats echoing behind him. But in his absence, a sense of unity fortifies between my mother and me. For the first time in months, I feel a flicker of hope. The following days are tense, with Ronan's mood swinging wildly. Yet there's a shift in the air, a sense that the tide may be turning. My resolve hardens with each passing moment, the plan to expose Ronan's true motives gaining clarity. One evening, as I sit alone in the boutique pondering the path ahead, a knock at the door jolts me from my thoughts. It's Jude, an old friend and confidant, whose unexpected visit brings a sense of normalcy to my chaotic world. "Alara, I've been worried about you. How are you holding up?" Jude's concern is genuine, a balm to the wounds inflicted by months of turmoil. "It's complicated. Ronan's not the man I thought he was," I admit, the words flowing more freely than I anticipated. Jude listens intently, his expression a mix of anger and sympathy. "You don't have to go through this alone, Alara. If there's anything I can do..." It's in this moment, confiding in Jude, that the final piece of our plan crystallizes. Ronan's actions, once hidden behind closed doors, will soon be brought to light. With Jude's unexpected support, the journey toward justice and revenge seems less daunting. Together, we begin to lay the groundwork for Ronan's public exposure, a step toward reclaiming my life from the ruins of a marriage built on deceit and manipulation. The flu hit me like a freight train, leaving me bedridden and weak. In any other household, sickness might elicit a modicum of sympathy or care. But in mine, it's seen as nothing more than an inconvenience, a failure to fulfill my duties as Ronan's wife. "Alara, this place is a mess," Ronan barks, his voice booming through the small, dark, cluttered apartment that's felt more like a prison than a home these past months. "And what's this? You're still in bed?" It's nearly noon. Struggling to sit up, I clutch the blanket tighter around my shivering body. "I'm really not well, Ronan. I can barely stand," I manage to say, my voice weak and hoarse. Ronan's glare is icy as he surveys the room, his disgust palpable. "Sick? Or just lazy? You know, I can't rely on you for anything." His words cut deeper than the sharp pains racking my body. It's in this moment of vulnerability, faced with his unrelenting cruelty, that the resolve within me hardens further. I need to escape this cycle of abuse, not just for my sake, but for my sanity. As Ronan storms out, presumably to find solace in his vices, I'm left alone with my thoughts and a growing sense of desperation. It's then that I remember Jude's offer of support. Picking up my phone feels like lifting a boulder, but the need for an ally, for someone to understand, gives me strength. Jude answers on the second ring. "Alara, how are you?" "Jude, I need help," I admit, the admission of weakness bringing tears to my eyes. There's no hesitation on his end. "I'll be right there," he says, and the line goes dead. When Jude arrives, the concern in his eyes is a stark contrast to the disdain I've grown accustomed to from Ronan. He doesn't recoil at the sight of the disarray or my disheveled state. Instead, he steps forward, ready to offer whatever aid he can. "Alara, tell me what to do. How can I help?" Jude asks, his voice steady and comforting. "Just being here is more than enough," I reply, a small smile breaking through the gloom. Together, we tidy up the space, his presence a calming force in the storm that has become my life. It's during this rare moment of peace that I confide in Jude the full extent of Ronan's behavior, the manipulation, the debts, and the emotional torment. Jude listens in silence, his expression hardening with each revelation. "This can't go on, Alara. You deserve so much better," Jude says once I've finished, his conviction clear. "I know, but I'm not sure what to do. I feel so trapped," I confess, the weight of my situation bearing down on me. Jude's response is immediate and resolute. "We'll find a way. You're not alone in this. Remember that." As Jude leaves, promising to return with help, I'm left with a newfound sense of determination. His visit, though brief, has reignited the flame of resistance within me. I can't change the past, but with Jude's support, I can fight for a future free from Ronan's tyranny. The days that follow are a blur of planning and whispered conversations. Jude becomes an invaluable ally, offering both emotional support and practical assistance. Together, we begin to document Ronan's abuses, compiling evidence for the day when we can finally expose him and break free from his grasp. It's a dangerous game we're playing, one fraught with risk and uncertainty, but the alternative, a life of continued abuse and despair, is no longer an option. With each passing day, my resolve strengthens, fueled by the support of my unlikely ally and the hope for a brighter future. The path to freedom is fraught with obstacles, but for the first time in a long time, I dare to believe that escape is within reach. Jude's unexpected visit had breathed new life into my wilted spirit, his presence a beacon of hope in the unending night that had become my existence. It was during one of these visits, as we sat plotting our next move in the quiet sanctuary of my mother's boutique after hours, that fate decided to twist the knife a bit further. Ronan, in a rare and unforeseen move, decided to grace the boutique with his presence. His sudden appearance at the door was like a storm cloud blotting out the sun, casting a shadow over the newfound hope I had clung to so desperately. "Alara, what the hell is this? Playing shop while the house falls apart." Ronan's voice boomed through the space, his words laced with venom. Jude, ever the pillar of calm in the face of adversity, stood beside me, an unwavering ally against Ronan's tempest. "Everything's under control, Ronan. Maybe you should head back," Jude suggested, his tone firm yet diplomatic, a stark contrast to Ronan's aggression. Ronan's eyes narrowed, his gaze flitting between Jude and me, suspicion igniting like wildfire in his eyes. "And who are you to tell me what to do? Another of Alara's little projects?" The tension in the air was palpable, a tangible force that seemed to squeeze the very breath from my lungs. Yet, despite the fear that clawed at my insides, a spark of defiance flickered to life. "Jude is a friend, someone who actually cares about my well-being," I retorted, my voice stronger than I felt. Ronan's laugh was cruel, a sound that sent shivers down my spine. "A friend, huh? Don't make me laugh. You're pathetic, Alara, both of you." It was then, amidst the torrent of Ronan's insults, that Jude did something unexpected. He pulled out his phone, subtly positioning it to capture the tirade. Ronan, too caught up in his own fury, failed to notice the silent witness documenting his every word. As Ronan stormed out, leaving a trail of bitter words in his wake, Jude turned to me, his expression grave. "I got it all on video, Alara. This could be what we need to expose him." The realization of what Jude had done, of the weapon we now possessed, was overwhelming. A mixture of fear and exhilaration flooded through me, the implications of our actions both terrifying and thrilling. "Thank you, Jude. I don't know what to say." Jude's smile was gentle, a balm to the chaos that had erupted. "You don't have to say anything. Just know you're not alone." In the days that followed, the video became the cornerstone of our plan. Jude, with contacts in local media and a keen sense of justice, began laying the groundwork for Ronan's exposure. Our meetings were filled with whispered strategies and cautious optimism, each step forward a delicate dance on the tightrope of revenge. The decision to go public was not made lightly. The potential fallout loomed large, a specter of consequence that could not be ignored. Yet, the need for justice, for an end to the cycle of abuse, outweighed the fear. "It's time, Alara. Are you ready?" Jude asked one evening, his finger hovering over the send button that would catapult our carefully guarded secret into the unforgiving light of public scrutiny. Taking a deep breath, I nodded, the weight of the moment settling heavy on my shoulders. "I'm ready. Let's do this." With a single click, Jude set the wheels of retribution in motion. The video, a damning testament to Ronan's true nature, was sent spiraling into the digital ether, a harbinger of the storm to come. As we waited for the inevitable backlash, a sense of peace settled over me. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, I dared to hope for a future free from the shadows of Ronan's tyranny. The battle was far from over, but with Jude by my side, I felt invincible. Together, we had ignited the flame of justice, and now there was no turning back. The morning after sending the video felt like the calm before the storm. The silence was almost deafening, a stark contrast to the chaos I knew was brewing on the horizon. Jude and I met at the boutique, our unofficial war room, waiting for the inevitable explosion that would come once Ronan discovered his sins laid bare for all to see. It wasn't long before the first signs of the tempest appeared. My phone buzzed relentlessly, notifications flooding in as the video spread like wildfire across social media platforms. The local news had picked up the story, amplifying it further, the headline screaming betrayal and deceit. Alara Morris exposes husband's abuse and deceit. It read, a simple yet powerful declaration of my stand against Ronan. As the world watched, Ronan's carefully constructed facade crumbled. Friends, colleagues, and even strangers voiced their support for me, their words a balm to the wounds inflicted over the years. But with the support came backlash, Ronan's defenders crawling from the woodwork, their words sharp and unforgiving. I was preparing for another day at the boutique when Ronan stormed in, his face a mask of rage and humiliation. You've ruined me, Alara, he spat, his voice trembling with fury. How dare you air our dirty laundry for the world to see? Standing my ground, I met his gaze, the fear that once would have crippled me, now replaced by a steadfast resolve. No, Ronan, you did this to yourself. I'm just shedding light on the truth. The confrontation was intense, Ronan's anger clashing with my newfound strength. Jude was there, a silent sentinel, ready to intervene if necessary. But it was clear Ronan's power over me had diminished, his threats empty in the face of my determination. You'll pay for this, Ronan hissed, a final desperate attempt to regain control. But his words no longer held sway over me. I already have, Ronan. Now it's your turn. The fallout from the video was swift and merciless. Ronan's professional life unraveled as his employer, faced with public pressure, terminated his position. His social circle, once a fortress of support, crumbled as friends and acquaintances distanced themselves, unwilling to be associated with a man exposed as an abuser and manipulator. With each passing day, the reality of his situation seemed to weigh heavier on Ronan, his once confident demeanor replaced by a sullen, defeated air. The tables had turned, and the predator found himself the prey, isolated and ostracized by the very community he had once dominated. For me, the days became a blur of interviews and meetings, my story a rallying cry for those who had suffered in silence. The support was overwhelming, a testament to the power of truth and the resilience of the human spirit. As Ronan's world collapsed around him, a sense of vindication filled me. It wasn't joy. There was no joy in the pain and suffering that had led to this moment, but a deep, profound sense of justice. For too long, I had lived in the shadows of Ronan's tyranny, but no more. The battle was far from over. Legal proceedings loomed on the horizon, a daunting path fraught with its own challenges. But as I stood in the boutique, now a beacon of hope and defiance, I knew I was ready to face whatever came next. With Jude by my side and a community of supporters behind me, I stepped into the light, a survivor no longer defined by the abuse I had endured, but by the strength I had found in my fight for justice. Ronan's downfall was not the end of my story, but the beginning of a new chapter, one written on my terms, in my voice. The repercussions of Ronan's exposure reverberated far beyond the initial shockwave, eroding the very foundation of his existence. His professional downfall was swift, a stark reminder of the consequences of his actions. But it was the personal fallout that truly marked the beginning of his undoing. Ronan, once a fixture in social circles, now found himself ostracized, a pariah in the community he had dominated. The isolation was a bitter pill to swallow, each day a reminder of the empire of lies he had built and lost. I watched from a distance, my resolve unshaken, as Ronan grappled with his new reality. The boutique became my sanctuary, a place of strength and solidarity. Jude was a constant presence, his support unwavering as we navigated the aftermath together. It was during one of our strategy sessions that Ronan made his last desperate attempt to regain control. He barged into the boutique, his eyes wild with desperation. "Alara, you have to stop this. You're destroying everything." His plea was met with cold indifference. "You did this to yourself, Ronan. I'm just seeking justice." Ronan's gaze flickered between Jude and me, searching for any sign of weakness, but there was none to be found. "You'll regret this," he muttered, a hollow threat that no longer held any power. The legal proceedings were grueling, a drawn-out battle that tested my limits. But with each passing day, I grew stronger, more confident in my pursuit of justice. Ronan's attempts to undermine me fell on deaf ears, his credibility shattered by his own actions. As the divorce settlement was finalized, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief wash over me. The court awarded me a substantial portion of Ronan's assets, a small compensation for the years of deceit and abuse. But it was more than just financial security. It was a symbol of my victory over Ronan, a tangible proof of my newfound independence. "You're free now, Alara," Jude said, his voice filled with pride. The words resonated deep within me, a beacon of hope in the aftermath of the storm. I know, it's finally over. In the months that followed, Ronan's life continued to unravel. His attempts to rebuild his reputation were futile, the stain of his actions indelible. The man who had once held so much power was now a shadow of his former self, struggling to navigate a world that had turned its back on him. For me, the end of my marriage to Ronan marked the beginning of a new chapter. The boutique thrived, a testament to my resilience and determination. And with each passing day, I found strength in my independence, my spirit no longer weighed down by the chains of the past. As I stood in the boutique, surrounded by friends and supporters, I couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought me here. The road had been long and fraught with challenges, but I had emerged stronger, a survivor in the truest sense. "Here's to new beginnings," Jude toasted, raising his glass in a salute. I smiled, my heart full of gratitude for the support that had carried me through the darkest of times. "To new beginnings," I echoed, my voice steady and sure. The battle was over, but my story was just beginning. A story of hope, of courage, and of a woman who refused to be silenced. Ronan's downfall was not just a victory for me, but for all those who had suffered in silence, a beacon of light in the darkness. As I looked around at the faces of my friends and supporters, I knew that this was not the end, but a new beginning. A chance to rebuild, to dream, and to live a life free from the shadows of the past. In the aftermath of Ronan's downfall, life began to take on a new rhythm, one marked by peace rather than turmoil. The boutique, once a silent witness to my suffering, became a vibrant hub of creativity and empowerment. With each passing day, I found myself stepping more confidently into the role of proprietor, my mother's legacy now firmly in my hands. It was during a quiet morning, the sun casting a warm glow over the newly arranged displays, that Sylvia approached me, her eyes shining with unspoken pride. "You've done well, Alara. Your strength has turned this place into more than just a boutique. It's a symbol of hope." Her words, simple yet profound, filled me with a sense of accomplishment. "Thanks, Mom. It feels good to be free to make a difference." The boutique had become more than just a business. It was a community. Women from all walks of life came not just to shop, but to share their stories, finding solace and strength in the solidarity we offered. And as my story became known, the boutique's mission evolved, transforming into a beacon for those seeking to reclaim their lives from the shadows of abuse. One afternoon, as I was rearranging a window display, a familiar face appeared on the other side of the glass. Jude, his supportive presence a constant throughout my journey, stepped inside, a smile playing on his lips. "Looks like you've turned this place into something truly special, Alara," he commented, his gaze sweeping over the vibrant interior. I smiled, acknowledging the truth in his words. "It's become more than I ever imagined, and it's all thanks to the support of friends like you." Jude's smile widened. "I wouldn't have missed it for the world. You've turned your pain into something powerful, Alara. You should be proud." Our conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a customer, a young woman whose eyes held a familiar flicker of resolve. As Jude excused himself, I turned my attention to her, ready to offer the same support that had once been extended to me. The boutique was not just a place of business. It had become a sanctuary, a place where stories of pain and resilience were woven into the very fabric of its existence. And as I shared my journey, I found strength in the shared experiences, a collective healing that transcended the personal. In the months that followed, my advocacy work grew, the boutique serving as a launching pad for initiatives aimed at supporting survivors of domestic abuse. Seminars, workshops, and support groups filled our calendar, each event a step towards breaking the silence that had once kept me prisoner. As I closed the boutique one evening, the last rays of sunlight casting a soft glow over the empty space, I allowed myself a moment of reflection. The journey had been long, filled with moments of despair and triumph, but as I stood there, surrounded by the tangible evidence of my resilience, I felt a deep, abiding sense of peace. Ronan's shadow no longer loomed over my life. Instead, I had emerged from the darkness, my spirit unbroken, my resolve unwavering. The boutique, once a reminder of my pain, was now a testament to my strength, a symbol of hope for those walking the path I had once trod. As I locked the door and stepped out into the evening, the cool air brushing against my skin, I felt a profound sense of closure. The battle was over, and I had emerged victorious, not just over Ronan, but over the fear and doubt that had once held me captive. Walking away from the boutique, I looked up at the stars, their light a reminder of the endless possibilities that lay ahead. The future was mine to shape, a blank canvas awaiting the touch of my hand. And as I took those first steps into the unknown, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, I would face them with the same courage and determination that had led me to this moment of rebirth. The end of my marriage to Ronan was not just an ending. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with hope, healing, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. "What's for dinner?" Jackson's words pierced the silence of our tense kitchen, his tone cold and dismissive as always. I froze, the venom in his voice draining the joy from my soul once again. How far we had fallen from those early dreamy days in Chicago when his smile filled me with delight. Now every word he uttered struck me with dread. I said nothing, responding only with silence. My hatred for the stranger Jackson had become sitting like a stone in my heart. He clicked his tongue, shaking his head as he strode out, granting me a few more minutes of hollow peace. My thoughts drifted to 5 years ago, when Jackson would surprise me with flowers and gifts, when our newborn son Eli would gaze at us like we held the secrets of the universe. I remembered the perfumed scent of happiness that seemed to follow us wherever we went. How blinded I was by illusions. The shrill ring of my phone cut through the silence. My mother-in-law, Eleanor, no doubt ready to yet again make veiled accusations about my failings as a wife and mother. "Avalon, I haven't seen my precious Eli in over a week," Eleanor complained. "I miss my darling boy." Her words were sweet, but her meaning clear. She wanted to see Eli without me sullying their visit. My role was to produce her prized grandchild, then vanish into the background. "We can arrange something soon," I said evenly, refusing to grovel at her feet and beg for scraps of affection. I would not let her control me any longer. That weekend, I planned an escape with Eli to visit my parents' farm, desperate for even a day's reprieve from the choking venom of Jackson and his manipulative mother. As soon as we arrived, Eli relaxed into the warm embrace of my parents, free from the smothering weight of the Stanhopes' expectations. Yet Jackson still found a way to ruin even this small oasis of peace. His barrage of demanding calls reminded me I did not have the luxury of freedom. I was trapped, bound by vows and violence. My only hope was Eli, my beloved boy, whose smile sustained me. As long as I had him, I could survive anything. When we returned, Eleanor's talons were out. She scolded Eli for being away so long, glaring at me as if I had committed an unforgivable sin by spending a weekend away. My son's eyes pooled with tears as she smothered him. This was my life now, a battlefield where my only ammunition was patience and resilience. I had to stay strong for Eli. Little did I know Jackson had schemes of his own brewing as he spun his web of lies against me. My friend Harper called, gushing about this amazing new widower she was seeing. My blood turned to ice when she described her whirlwind romance with none other than Jackson himself. Rage, betrayal, and humiliation tore through me like shrapnel. For this final treachery, Jackson would pay the ultimate price. My hands trembled as I set my phone down, Harper's bubbly voice still echoing in my mind. The initial shock gave way to anger as the reality of Jackson's betrayal sank in. My husband, the man I had built dreams with, now wooed my own friend behind my back. I had to warn Harper, though exposing Jackson's deception would no doubt ignite his rage towards me. My son Eli played on the living room floor as I composed myself before making the call, drawing strength from his innocence. "Avalon, I was just talking about you," Harper chirped. I cut through her enthusiasm sharply. "The man you're seeing, what's his name?" Jay Stanhope. Why do you ask?" she replied, surprise coloring her tone. Bile rose in my throat as my suspicions were confirmed. Jackson had spun a web of lies, preying on Harper's longing for love. I exposed his deception plainly, my voice quivering with anger and pain. A heavy silence followed, the weight of betrayal hanging between two friends. When I told Jackson I had uncovered his deceit, his expression hardened to stone. Eleanor watched with thinly veiled amusement as he exploded. "You had no right to meddle in my affairs," he bellowed. "Harper meant nothing, but your jealousy has cost me a valuable business connection." His callous words deepened the chasm between us. I was no longer his wife, just an obstacle to be demolished. Eleanor smirked, the chaos only furthering her twisted hold over her damaged son. In that moment I understood. It was time to leave. There was nothing left to salvage here. I had only endured this emotional warfare for my son's sake, but now I realized no child should see his mother thus degraded. As Jackson's tirade continued, I calmly packed our bags, comforting my confused and frightened son. Soon Eli would be safe and free from these toxins. I whispered a prayer of thanks that my parents had offered their farm as a refuge. Their warm embrace was medicine for my battered soul. Yet the Stanhope's venom followed us even to this pastoral escape. Eleanor and Jackson barraged me with calls and threats, promising to take Eli away for good. As my son played happily with my father's baby goats, blissfully unaware of the battle raging over him, my mother spoke words that would shape the course of my vengeance. "Avalon, you must go back. Record their threats, document their lies, gather allies. Only then can you defeat them and free Eli from their clutches forever." I realized she was right. I had to shift from victim to warrior, or they would hunt me to the ends of the earth. If protecting my son meant destroying those who sought to harm us, so be it. I now understood the power I held as mother of Jackson's prized heir. Checkmate was still possible, no matter how ruthless the opponents. Jackson had dealt the first blow, but I would strike the final one. This was now a game of kings and pawns, where survivors take the prize. My son's future happiness hinged on my next moves. Failure was not an option. Too much was at stake. The kings would soon face their downfall. Returning to the battlefield took every ounce of my courage. Jackson's mask of civility had finally fallen, exposing the monster that lurked beneath. Home was now a minefield of emotional traps and verbal assaults. But my mother's words armed me for the fight ahead. I knew what needed to be done. I began documenting their deceit like an investigator, recording conversations, keeping a detailed log of Eleanor and Jackson's threats and manipulation. Though still nursing my wounds, I found purpose in preparing for the trials ahead. Justice would be done, no matter how powerful my adversaries imagined themselves to be. During a tense family dinner, Eleanor's snide comments pushed me to the edge. "That Harper girl Jackson took up with, I knew she was familiar. Wasn't she your little friend, Avalon?" Bile rose in my throat, but I simply gave a tight smile. I would not give her the satisfaction of seeing my pain. Jackson said nothing, suddenly finding his steak fascinating. After they left, I gently asked Eli about his time with his grandmother. The flower of innocence in his eyes wilted. "She scares me sometimes, Mommy. Grandpa yells a lot, too. I don't like it there." His words ignited my fury once more. How dare they trample my son's fragile spirit and destroy the safety of his world? Jackson's mask fully fell away when I confronted him about his emotional abuse of our son. He shouted and slammed his fist on the table inches from my face. "You turned my own son against me. I always knew you were inadequate as a mother. No wonder he prefers you." Eli began crying as his father raged. Seeing my son's tears, I swore Jackson would pay for every second of heartbreak he had caused. The next morning, as Jackson left on another suspicious business trip, I asked sweetly about his plans. His look of surprise at the sudden affection in my voice was satisfying. Little did he know I had installed tracking software on his phone and recording devices in his car. His villainy would soon be his undoing. My parents provided comfort from the emotional battlefield. Their embrace nourished my battered but unbroken spirit. Dad taught Eli to milk cows and make jam, simple joys that erased Jackson's poison. As I tucked my slumbering boy into bed, he murmured, "I feel safe here, Mommy." His peaceful sleep was answer to 100 prayers. When uncovering Jackson's location through the tracking software, I noted he had traveled to Harperstown for a suspicious overnight visit. The trap was set perfectly now. I could use his tryst as irrefutable evidence against him during divorce proceedings. Soon Eli and I would break free from these toxic chains forever. My chance for absolute victory was close at hand. I imagined Jackson and his mother utterly demolished by what I now held against them: videos, records, and witness accounts. They had played with fire by challenging me, never imagining the phoenix that could rise from my ashes. Now doom awaited them as karma prepared her devastating blow. My next family dinner was a viper's nest of passive aggression and thinly veiled threats. Eleanor made snide comments about my simple meatloaf, though just a year ago she had praised the same recipe. Jackson scrolled through his phone, not bothering to pretend interest in his wife and son any longer. I simply ate in silence, my quiet fury simmering beneath a mask of perfect calm. As I cleared the dishes after the tense meal, Eleanor cornered me. "Avalon, don't you realize you're preventing Jackson from reaching his full potential? The boy needs a proper partner, one from the right kind of family." Her words poured acid into my heart, but I did not flinch. "I think a divorce would be best for everyone. Jackson has already found a more suitable match." At this final insult, something broke free inside me, a righteous rage against injustice that blocked out all fear. Meeting Eleanor's glare calmly, I replied, "If you try to take my son from me, I will reduce your entire family to ashes." Shock registered on her face. She clearly underestimated the strength a mother finds when defending her cub. Returning home, I ignored Jackson's drunken ramblings, mentally preparing for war. My nerves were iron. I felt no trace of doubt. Securing Eli's future meant annihilating my enemies by any means necessary. I had already endured the worst pain they could inflict. Their blows only honed my will to survive. I edited my documentation, tightening it into an impenetrable legal trap guaranteed to favor me in court. Jackson's credibility would be shattered, Eleanor's manipulation exposed. Justice would soon arrive on swift wings. Over the next weeks, I wore a disguise of normalcy while secretly meeting lawyers and a private detective to build my case. Arthur, an old family friend on the force, provided legal advice I knew Jackson would never see coming. Weeks of planning in secret were about to yield dark and brutal fruit. Soon after Jackson left for a work emergency, no doubt code for meeting Harper, I followed him at a distance in a rented car. As expected, he drove straight to her apartment where she welcomed him with a kiss. The sight turned my stomach, but I captured images to twist the knife during divorce proceedings. My evidence folder grew thicker by the day. When Jackson returned the next morning reeking of Harper's perfume, I calmly informed him I wanted full custody of Eli and would be seeking a restraining order. A satisfying flicker of panic flashed across his arrogant face. The predator had just realized he had become prey. My mercy towards him evaporated like dewdrops in this moment. All that remained was the satisfied hum of sweet revenge. Jackson exploded into wrathful threats when I revealed my legal plans, confirming once and for all the true ugliness festering within him. He slammed his fists and overturned furniture, spewing graphic ways he would make me suffer. As he raged, I simply tapped a button on my phone to start an audio recording. His venomous words would seal his fate in court. I stood motionless as his anger crashed over me like waves over a rock. When his tirade finally exhausted itself, I stepped forward calmly. "I once loved the man you pretended to be, but now I see the truth. You will never hurt me or my son again." Jackson's face contorted into a hateful sneer. "You poisonous witch! I should have crushed your spirit years ago. My mother always warned you would betray me." He turned and stormed away, no doubt seeking solace between Harper's sheets. I had known divorce would provoke his inner demons, but I welcomed the confrontation. The law would grant me sole custody the moment I presented a fragment of the evidence I now held against Jackson and Eleanor. Justice would be done. In the quiet aftermath, I noticed Eli watching from the hallway, holding his stuffed bear in fear. I enveloped my son in fierce love, sadness mingling with relief that he had witnessed his father's true colors. "Don't worry, my darling. We are going to be happy and safe soon. I promise." Our new apartment provided refuge as the divorce exploded into being. On my lawyer's advice, I took Eli and moved out quickly, leaving Jackson snarling threats in our empty house. The legal team efficiently turned my evidence against my husband and mother-in-law into an airtight case for full custody of my son. Meanwhile, Jackson spiraled into self-destruction, drunk and violent. His business trips to meet Harper did little to numb his rage at losing control of me and his prized son. His mother desperately tried to restrain his reckless behavior, fearing damage to her family's esteemed social status. But the foundations of her carefully curated image were cracking. Soon Jackson would bring the whole rotting edifice crumbling down. Harper tried calling me, stuttering apologies filled with excuses about Jackson manipulating her loneliness. I simply wished her well with a smile. She was not to blame for my husband's deceit. In truth, I pitied her, for Jackson would surely break her heart too once he had extracted all he needed from her, then toss her aside. Berating Harper would serve no purpose, so I focused on my true goal, severing all ties to my abusers. The turning point arrived during an ugly custody hearing, where my ironclad documentation and audio evidence demolished any defense Jackson tried to mount. As he fumed, Eleanor screeched accusations, and their lawyer sat in stunned silence. I maintained perfect, smiling calm. I had played the long game masterfully, luring them into revealing their own wretchedness before systematically destroying them. Soon Eli and I would be reborn from the ashes of the Stanhopes' smoldering ruin. The day of reckoning arrived with poetical perfection on Thanksgiving. I had invited Harper along with Jackson and Eleanor, presenting the image of a perfect hostess. My real purpose was setting the stage for their final demolishment. I had told Harper part of the truth, that Jackson had deceived us both and was still clinging to her. But she foolishly insisted on seeing the best in him, still enchanted by his hollow charm. Well, her naive blindness would end today. My parents joined us, bolstering my drive for justice. My evidence file and lawyer's number waited in my room, ready for use. I had forwarded videos of Jackson's raging threats along with records of Eleanor's manipulation to key contacts as insurance. If I did not make it through today unscathed, their own ugliness would trigger mutually assured destruction. When the Stanhopes arrived, I received them warmly, playing the role of forgiving ex-wife to lure them into complacency. Jackson overplayed the charm while Eleanor critiqued the menu I had slaved over, predictably ungrateful. During dinner, I made sure to position Harper beside Jackson. My friend giggled and blushed whenever he whispered flirtatiously in her ear. Watching them, my family members bristled with outrage on my behalf. I gave them subtle signals to wait as baiting my trap. Justice would be served cold. Dessert was interrupted by the ring of Jackson's phone. He glanced at the screen and silenced it quickly. But my hawk-eyed mother caught a glimpse of the name Amanda with a heart emoji before it disappeared from view. I seized the moment, my fury channeled into an eagle's deadly resolve. Looking directly at Harper, I asked gently, "Jackson, darling, who was that calling?" All eyes froze on my husband as he gulped nervously. Turning to my friend, I continued, "Harper, do you know if Jackson sees other women?" My words hung in the air like a guillotine blade, because he certainly lied to both of us. As understanding dawned on Harper's face, her shock quickly morphed into humiliation and heartbreak. As she erupted in sobs, my family surrounded her in solidarity, while Eleanor watched in horror as her web of lies fell apart. Jackson sat mute and stone-faced at the unraveling of his schemes. The leading man had lost control of his plot. I ended the final act by placing my evidence binder on the table. As my parents comforted Harper, I calmly informed Jackson he would sign the divorce settlement immediately, granting me full custody. Refuse, and this evidence destroys what remains of your life. My words rang with cold authority. Justice had been served. In the aftermath, Jackson's world collapsed with satisfying swiftness. My evidence proved his deceit was far more extensive than I had even realized. The detailed records showed him shamelessly manipulating numerous women for money and status, with Harper and I as just two in a long string of victims of his scams. With his credibility and social standing annihilated, Jackson descended rapidly into recklessness. He was fired from his prestigious family firm after showing up drunk to an important client meeting. Reports soon surfaced of him getting into fistfights at bars and clubs. His engagement to longtime girlfriend Amanda ended bitterly amid cheating allegations. Eleanor, once so proud and domineering, became a social pariah, shunned for enabling her son's abusive behavior. The Stanhope family name lay in tatters. She retreated from public view, suddenly plagued by poor health with no one left to dote on her. My mother commented it was likely her heart had shriveled so completely that her body could no longer sustain itself. I felt no pity watching the old crone reap what she had sown. With the Stanhopes decimated, I focused fully on rebuilding my life with Eli. My divorce settlement allowed me to buy a lovely home near my parents, where Eli and I discovered tranquility once more. I returned to work at the local library, finding meaning in simple joys and community after years trapped in toxic chaos. My only lingering anger was towards the justice system that had allowed Jackson to inflict maximum damage on me despite mounds of evidence. The lawyer fees had nearly bankrupted me even as Jackson walked free with light penalties. I now understood how power and privilege stacked the odds, forcing victims to fight tooth and nail for basic dignity. Harper remained a steadfast friend, helping me advocate for legal support for abused women struggling to escape manipulative partners. Her warmth and loyalty proved she was a victim as well. Together we found healing and meaning. One morning I arrived early to open the library and noticed a delivery by the back door. A beautiful bouquet of flowers waited in a vase with an unsigned note reading simply, "Please forgive me." I recognized Harper's handwriting immediately. We cried together as 8 years of pain and betrayal washed away, leaving only relief that the long nightmare was over. A week later, my lawyer informed me that several women allegedly assaulted by Jackson had successfully pressed charges against him based on my evidence. He now awaited trial behind bars. The country club playboy had lost everything from his kingdom to his freedom itself. Justice had caught up to him at long last, as I knew it would. Watching Eli dance carefreely at my parents' summer picnic, his laughter healing old wounds, I knew I had reclaimed what mattered most. The predators who once haunted us would never steal our joy again. The past was just a fading nightmare banished by the dawn. In the quiet comfort of my childhood home, where each creaking floorboard holds a memory, I stand frozen, grappling with the words that just shattered the stillness. Gregory, my husband of 8 years, his face an unreadable mask, drops the bombshell that upends everything. "Lydia, it's decided. Alara is moving in and your mother needs to go to a nursing home. If you're not okay with that, we can always divorce," he states coldly. Behind him, Alara, his sister, smirks with a venomous glee that chills me to the bone. Their cruelty, stark and unapologetic, feels like a physical blow. I've always believed in the sanctity of family, in the bonds that were supposed to be unbreakable. But here I am, watching those bonds fray and snap before my very eyes. My mother, frail and vulnerable since Dad's passing, has become a mere inconvenience in their scheme. Divorce? The word tastes bitter as I spit it out, disbelief lacing my voice. "You'd throw away our marriage all for her?" Gregory shrugs, his indifference a sharp contrast to the tempest raging inside me. "Lydia, it's simple. Alara needs a place to stay, and frankly, your mother is just taking up space. We need to think practically." Practically? The audacity of his words stings. This house, brimming with decades of love and laughter, reduced to mere square footage in his eyes. I glance at my mother, sitting in her favorite armchair, a look of utter defeat etched on her face. The image of her being sent away, discarded like an old piece of furniture, ignites a fire within me. "Fine," I say, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "If divorce is what you want, Gregory, then you'll have it. But know this, I will not let you toss my mother aside like she's nothing." Gregory's eyes widen in surprise. Clearly, he hadn't expected me to call his bluff. Alara's smirk falters, her confidence shaken. In that moment, a plan begins to form in my mind. a plan to not only escape this toxic marriage, but to expose their callousness for what it truly is. They think they can manipulate me, break me down, and cast aside the people I love most. They're sorely mistaken. As I head to my room, the words of my father echo in my mind, a mantra of strength and resilience. Never let anyone dim your light, Lydia. Stand tall, even in the darkest of times. Tonight, as I lay in bed, I'm not just planning a divorce. I'm planning a reckoning. Gregory and Alara have awakened a side of me they'll wish they hadn't. I'll protect my mother and our home, no matter what it takes. This is more than just a marital dispute. It's a battle for dignity, for respect, and for the sanctity of the home I've loved my whole life. They may have declared war, but I'm more than ready to fight back. The morning light filters through the curtains, casting a warm glow over what feels like the aftermath of a storm. Today, the battle lines are drawn. I'm not just fighting for my mother's dignity. I'm fighting for my own. I start the day with a phone call to a lawyer, my voice steady but my hands trembling. The lawyer, a woman named Miss Hernandez, listens intently as I explain the situation. Mrs. Graham, we can start the divorce proceedings immediately, she assures me. And regarding your mother, we'll ensure she stays right where she belongs. Her words are a balm, and for the first time since Gregory's ultimatum, I feel a flicker of hope. As I hang up, I'm met with the sight of Gregory and Alara in the kitchen, their laughter grating against my nerves. Alara, perched on a stool, is flipping through a magazine, while Gregory prepares breakfast with an air of forced normalcy. Good morning, Lydia, Gregory says, his tone casual, as if our world hadn't just crumbled. I've contacted a lawyer, I reply, my voice devoid of emotion. We're getting a divorce, Gregory, and my mother is staying. Alara's eyes snap up from her magazine, her earlier smugness replaced by shock. You're serious? You'd really throw away your marriage over this? Over this? I echo, my anger simmering. This is about respect, Alara, something you know nothing about. Gregory sets down the spatula, his face hardening. You're being irrational, Lydia. You can't just... Irrational? I cut him off. No, Gregory. What's irrational is expecting me to abandon my mother for your sister's convenience. The tension in the room is palpable, a silent war raging with every word exchanged. My mother shuffles into the room, her presence a reminder of what's at stake. Lydia, is everything all right? She asks, her voice frail. Everything's going to be fine, Mom, I assure her, my resolve strengthening. Gregory and Alara exchange a look, a silent conversation that speaks volumes. They had underestimated me, and now they're scrambling. In the following days, the house becomes a battlefield of silent glares and unspoken words. Alara's presence, once just an annoyance, now feels like a constant provocation. Every smug smile, every dismissive gesture, fuels my determination. The day I receive the divorce papers, my hands shake as I sign them. There's no joy in this victory, only a deep sense of loss for what could have been. But as I watch Gregory's face fall when I hand them to him, I feel a surge of empowerment. This is what you wanted, isn't it? I say, my voice steady. Freedom from us, from responsibility. Well, you've got it. Gregory's response is a mumbled excuse, a feeble attempt to justify his actions. But I'm done listening. I'm done being the one who bends. As I retreat to my room, the reality of what I've set in motion hits me. There's no turning back now, but in this moment of solitude, I don't feel fear or regret. I feel a fierce sense of pride. I am Lydia Graham, and I will not be broken. Not by Gregory, not by Alara, and certainly not by the cruel hand fate has dealt me. This is just the beginning. The real battle is yet to come, and I am ready for it. The days following the initiation of the divorce proceedings feel like navigating a minefield in what used to be my sanctuary. Gregory's aloofness and Alara's scornful glances are constant reminders of the battle I'm embroiled in. But I refuse to be intimidated in my own home. A week later, I'm sitting across from Miss Hernandez in her office, the divorce papers spread out like a map of a battlefield. The good news, she begins, her eyes scanning the documents, is that you have a strong case for keeping the house, especially given your mother's condition. I nod, a mixture of relief and sorrow washing over me. This house, once a symbol of familial warmth, has become the core of my struggle. But, Miss Hernandez continues, there's something unusual. It seems Gregory has significant debts, ones he's kept hidden. Debts? The word hits me like a wave. Gregory's secretive phone calls and sudden expenses now make a chilling sense. The realization that he's not only betrayed my trust but also endangered our financial security is a bitter pill to swallow. Can he claim the house because of these debts? I ask, my voice barely above a whisper. It's unlikely, given the circumstances. But we need to be prepared, she replies, her tone firm yet reassuring. Armed with this new information, I return home, my mind racing. The sight of Alara lounging in the living room, her feet disrespectfully propped up on the coffee table, ignites my anger. Enjoying yourself? I ask, unable to mask my contempt. Alara looks up, her eyes cold. Oh, I'm just getting comfortable. After all, it's going to be my home soon. Her smugness is like a slap in the face, but I stand my ground. Actually, Alara, you might want to start looking for another place. The house isn't going to be part of the divorce settlement. Her smirk fades, replaced by a flicker of panic. What do you mean? Gregory said. What Gregory said and what's legal are two different things, I cut her off. And while we're at it, let's discuss your brother's hidden debts. Alara's face strains of color. Debts? What are you talking about? Oh, don't play dumb, Alara. It's unbecoming, I retort. Gregory's financial troubles are going to complicate things for both of you. For the first time since she arrived, I see uncertainty in Alara's eyes. The revelation of Gregory's debts seems to have shaken her confidence, her facade of control slipping. Gregory walks in at that moment, his face a mask of confusion. Lydia, what's this about debts? Ask your brother, Alara. He seems to have been keeping secrets from both of us, I say, turning to leave the room. As I walk away, I can't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. The tables are turning, and for once, Gregory and Alara are the ones caught off guard. But this is more than just a game of one-upmanship. It's about justice, about reclaiming my life and protecting my mother. Gregory and Alara may have thought they could control me, but they're about to learn just how wrong they were. The battle lines have been drawn, and I'm not just defending my ground, I'm advancing. The following days are a blur of cold exchanges and tense silences. Gregory's once familiar presence now feels like an oppressive cloud hanging over the house. Alara, though visibly shaken by the revelation of the debts, clings to her disdainful attitude. But their veneer of confidence is cracking, and I intend to shatter it. One evening, a week after my meeting with Miss Hernandez, I receive an unexpected phone call. It's from Posey, my mother-in-law. Her voice, usually laced with subtle barbs, now trembles with unease. Lydia, we need to talk. Can you come over? She asks, a note of desperation in her tone. The next day, I find myself at Gregory's parents' house, a place I had once considered a second home. The door opens, and Posey stands there, her usual poise replaced by a nervous fidgeting. What is it, Posey? Why the sudden need to talk? I ask, stepping inside. In the living room, the air is thick with tension. Posey wrings her hands, a clear sign of her anxiety. Lydia, we heard about the divorce and the debts. Gregory never told us. Seems he didn't tell anyone, I reply, my words sharp. Posey sighs, the weight of her son's actions bearing down on her. Lydia, please, is there any way this can be resolved without all this mess? I can't help but feel a bitter satisfaction at her discomfort. This was the woman who had subtly undermined me at every turn, who had always favored her son's whims over my well-being. Posey, you're asking me to overlook your son's betrayal, his lies, and his attempt to throw my mother out of her own house. You think that can just be swept under the rug? I demand, my voice rising. Posey flinches, the reality of my words hitting her hard. I didn't know about all that, she stammers. That's the problem, Posey. You never knew, or perhaps never wanted to know. Gregory and Alara's actions are a reflection of what they've been taught, what they've been allowed to get away with, I say, my gaze unwavering. For a moment, Posey seems lost for words, the veneer of the matriarch crumbling before me. Then, with a heavy sigh, she speaks. I'm sorry, Lydia. I didn't realize. As I leave their house, Posey's apology echoing in my ears, I feel a complex mix of emotions. Anger, certainly, at the years of subtle jabs and favoritism, but also a sense of closure, of having spoken my truth to the woman who had, in many ways, enabled Gregory's behavior. This isn't just a victory in the battle of the divorce, it's a personal victory, a reclaiming of my voice and my worth. Gregory and Alara may have started this war, but I'm the one who's going to end it. And as I drive back to my house, to the life I'm fighting to protect, I know one thing for certain. I am not the same woman they thought they could control. I am stronger, fierier, and more determined than ever. The real battle is just beginning, and I am ready for it. The finalization of the divorce arrives like a storm, fierce and liberating. Gregory's signature on the papers is more than a legal formality. It's the end of a chapter filled with betrayal and the beginning of a new narrative written on my terms. In the aftermath, I find myself standing in the now quiet house, a sense of solemn victory washing over me. The property is mine, and my mother's place in her own home is secure. But the win is bittersweet. The house feels larger, emptier. Alara had moved out the day before the divorce was finalized, her departure marked by a sullen silence that was a stark contrast to her usual brashness. As she left, our eyes met, and for a fleeting second, I saw something that resembled regret. But it was gone as quickly as it appeared, replaced by the familiar scowl. In the weeks that follow, I focus on rebuilding. The house undergoes a transformation, each change a step towards reclaiming my space. Fresh paint, new curtains, and the removal of everything that reminds me of Gregory and Alara. My mother watches this process, her eyes reflecting a mix of sadness and relief. "Lydia, are you sure about all this?" she asks one evening, her voice tinged with concern. "I've never been more sure, Mom," I reply, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "This is our home, and it's time we made new memories here." But the past isn't ready to let go just yet. One evening, a knock on the door disrupts the newfound peace. Standing on the doorstep is Oswald, Gregory's father. His eyes are weary, his posture resigned. "Lydia, I need to talk to you," he says, his voice heavy. I lead him into the living room, offering a seat but not warmth. Oswald looks around, a sad smile playing on his lips. "This house, it's changed," he observes. "It needed to," I respond, my tone neutral. Oswald nods, understanding the unspoken words. "Lydia, I'm here to apologize. For Gregory, for Alara, and for how we treated you and your mother." His apology, sincere as it may be, doesn't erase the pain. But it's a start, a small step towards healing. Oswald talks about Gregory, about his failures and mistakes, painting a picture of a man lost in his own shortcomings. "I don't expect forgiveness, Lydia. I just wanted you to know that we see the pain we caused." Oswald says he stands to leave. His departure leaves me with a sense of closure, albeit a complicated one. The battle may be over, but the scars remain. Yet in their own way, they're a testament to my strength, to the journey I've undertaken. As I sit there, in the quiet aftermath of Oswald's visit, I realize that this battle has been about more than just a divorce or a house. It's been about finding my voice, about standing up for myself and my mother. And in doing so, I've discovered a resilience I never knew I had. The future is uncertain, but it's mine to shape. And whatever it holds, I know I'll face it with the same strength that brought me through this storm. Life after the divorce settles into a new rhythm, a dance of healing and rediscovery. The house, now infused with a sense of liberation, becomes a haven for my mother and me. But just when I start to believe that the storm has passed, the winds of the past swirl back into my life. It happens on a quiet Tuesday evening. My phone rings, and Gregory's name flashes on the screen, a ghost from a chapter I had closed. I answer, curiosity piqued and defenses up. "Lydia, I need to talk to you." Gregory's voice comes through, hesitant and strained. "Why, Gregory? What's left to say?" I ask, my tone guarded. "It's about everything. I've made mistakes, Lydia, big ones. I realize that now," he says, a note of desperation creeping into his voice. His words, meant to convey remorse, only stir a well of bitterness within me. "Mistakes? You call uprooting our lives and siding with Alara against your own wife and her mother just mistakes?" Gregory pauses, and when he speaks again, his voice is laced with something akin to regret. "I was wrong, Lydia, about Alara, about how I treated you and your mother. I see that now." The confession, though unexpected, doesn't soften the sharp edges of my memories. Realizations don't erase actions, Gregory. You chose your path. There's a shuffling sound, and I picture Gregory pacing, a habit of his when cornered. I know, but Lydia, I miss you. I miss us." The admission hangs in the air, a plea wrapped in nostalgia. But the man I loved, the man I thought I knew, vanished long ago, replaced by a stranger. "Miss us? Gregory, there is no us anymore. You made sure of that," my voice steady. Gregory's voice breaks slightly. Can we meet? Just once to talk. Please, Lydia. The request, a blend of hope and despair, makes me pause. Part of me yearns for closure, for a final goodbye to the man I once shared my life with. But another part, the part hardened by betrayal, knows better. No, Gregory, there's nothing left to discuss. We've said all there is to say, I say, the finality in my voice sealing the conversation. As I end the call, a sense of empowerment washes over me. The Gregory, who stood on my doorstep all those months ago, demanding changes I couldn't accept, is no more. In his place stands a man broken by his choices, seeking solace in a past that no longer exists. That night, as I sit with my mother, sharing stories and laughter, I realize the full extent of my journey. From a woman caught in the tides of others' decisions to one who commands her own destiny. The road ahead is mine to travel, with its twists and turns, its shadows and lights. But one thing is clear. I am no longer the woman who once sought validation in the eyes of a man who could not see her worth. I am Lydia, whole and unbroken, master of my story. In the weeks that follow my last conversation with Gregory, life takes on a peaceful rhythm. My mother and I find joy in the small things, gardening, cooking, and long walks in the neighborhood. The house, once a battleground, is now a sanctuary of tranquility. But just as I begin to bask in the calm, an unexpected encounter jolts me back to reality. It's a sunny Saturday morning, and I'm at the local market when I spot Alara. She's at a fruit stand, her once haughty demeanor replaced by a look of wariness. Our eyes meet, and for a moment time stands still. I approach her, curiosity getting the better of me. Alara, it's been a while. She turns, her face a mask of surprise and discomfort. Lydia, yeah, it has. Her voice lacks its usual edge, her posture deflated. The sight of her so diminished stirs a complex mix of emotions within me. I heard about the debts, the troubles you and Gregory are facing, I say, keeping my tone neutral. Alara lets out a sigh, the fight seemingly drained from her. Yeah, things didn't quite go as planned. Gregory's struggling, and I guess I didn't help matters. Her admission, a rare glimpse of vulnerability, takes me aback. I suppose we all have our lessons to learn, I reply. Alara nods, a flicker of something like remorse crossing her face. I just wanted to say, Lydia, I'm sorry for everything. The apology, unexpected and raw, leaves me momentarily speechless. This was the woman who had once seemed incapable of regret, now standing before me, seeking forgiveness. Apology noted, Alara, but it doesn't change what happened, I say, my words firm but not unkind. I know, she replies, her gaze dropping. I needed you to know. We part ways, the encounter leaving a trail of mixed feelings in its wake. As I walk back home, I reflect on the journey I've embarked on, the pain, the betrayal, and the triumphs. In the solitude of the evening, I sit with my mother on our porch, the sunset painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. We talk about the future, about the possibilities that lie ahead. Mom, do you think I did the right thing? I ask, seeking affirmation. She takes my hand, her eyes warm and understanding. Lydia, you stood up for yourself and for me. You showed strength and grace in the face of adversity. Yes, you did the right thing. Her words settle in my heart, a comforting affirmation of my choices. As the night falls, I realize that this chapter of my life, though fraught with challenges, has been a crucible of transformation. I am no longer defined by the shadows of my past. I am a woman reborn, resilient, and free. My story, once entangled in the whims of others, is now mine to write. And as I look to the stars, I make a silent vow to live a life of authenticity, to cherish the love of my mother, and to embrace the endless possibilities that await. I am Lydia Graham, and my journey is just beginning. It was just another quiet evening at home until the phone call came and turned our world upside down. Marcus and I were sitting at the dinner table, enjoying the salmon and roasted potatoes I'd made, when his cell phone started buzzing. He glanced at the screen and froze. Who is it? I asked. It's Selena, he said grimly. Selena, his 19-year-old daughter from his disastrous first marriage who he hadn't spoken to in years. My heart sank. Nothing good could come of this. Marcus answered the call and I studied his face as he listened, his eyes narrowing in concern. After a few terse words, he hung up and let out a long sigh. What did she want? I asked, bracing myself. She's coming to live with us. Her roommate kicked her out, so she's driving here tomorrow. I dropped my fork, my appetite vanishing. Here? For how long? She didn't say, but it sounded like she plans to stay indefinitely. I felt the panic rising in my chest. We'd worked so hard to build a good life, a stable home. Marcus and I both came from broken families, rife with lies and betrayals. It had taken years of therapy and trust building to heal those wounds. The last thing we needed was a destructive, entitled 19-year-old tearing open those scars again. "Can't her mother take her in?" I asked. Marcus shook his head. "You know how that went. The divorce was nuclear. They haven't spoken since." Before I could object further, we heard the front door open. Our 16-year-old son Eli walked in, home from basketball practice. He joined us at the table, his wavy brown hair damp with sweat. "Hey, Mom, Dad, what's going on?" he asked, detecting the tension immediately. He was an exceptionally perceptive kid. Marcus gave him a tired smile. "We just got a call from your sister Selena. She's going to be staying with us for a while." Eli's eyes widened in surprise. He knew little about Selena, other than the few bitter stories Marcus had told over the years. Okay, Eli said slowly. "How long is she staying?" "We don't know yet," Marcus admitted. An uneasy silence settled on the room. I could imagine the worried thoughts spinning through Eli's mind. Selena's sudden arrival would disrupt the stability he valued so deeply, but he was too kind-hearted to voice those concerns. I reached over and gave his hand a reassuring squeeze. Then I turned to Marcus, my eyes flashing with determination. "We need to set firm ground rules," I said. "No freeloading or taking advantage. If she wants to stay here, she needs to get a job and contribute." Marcus nodded. "You're right. I'll make that clear when she arrives." But as we cleaned up the remains of dinner, I couldn't shake the feeling that nothing good would come from Selena's return. The past has a way of catching up, even if you barricade the door. The next morning I woke up feeling uneasy. Today was the day Selena would arrive. Marcus had cleared out the small guest room for her, but I doubted she'd be happy with the cramped space. Over breakfast, Marcus tried reassuring Eli. "Don't worry, I'm sure Selena has grown up a lot since I last saw her. Just try to make her feel welcome." Eli nodded, but I could tell he was dreading her arrival as much as I was. Around noon, we heard a car pull up outside. "That must be her," Marcus said. My heart pounded as we went to the front door. A blonde girl stepped out of a beat-up hatchback jammed with clothes and boxes. She looked nothing like the sullen, scrawny 13-year-old I remembered from the divorce hearings years ago. She'd grown tall and pretty, wearing stylish clothes and expertly applied makeup. But her bright smile didn't reach her eyes. Marcus hugged her awkwardly. "Welcome home, Selena." "Thanks, Daddy," she said sweetly, though she'd made no effort to contact him since the divorce. "It's so good to see you again." Over the next hour, Selena carried in her boxes and bags, piling them in the small guest room despite the lack of space. She rejected Marcus's offers to help, barking at him not to touch her things. So much for her growing up, I thought. At dinner, Selena dominated the conversation, chatting about herself and sprinkling in subtle insults toward me. "I can't believe you're still working as a nurse, Lena. Wouldn't you rather do something more interesting?" I bit my tongue. Nursing was my passion, but Selena clearly looked down on it. When Eli talked about applying for college scholarships, Selena laughed sharply. "Good luck getting enough money to attend a decent school." Eli's face burned. I knew how hard he'd worked for those scholarships, maintaining straight A's while excelling at sports. After dinner, I pulled Marcus aside. "We need to set ground rules for Selena," I urged. "No more of this entitled behavior." He sighed. "You're right, I'll talk to her." But over the next few days, nothing changed. Selena continued acting rudely, while doing nothing to get a job or help around the house. My patience wore dangerously thin. Then came the final straw. I arrived home from work one evening to find Selena gone and Eli sitting alone, his face pale. "What's wrong?" I asked. "She stole my laptop, and my money jar was empty." His lower lip trembled. There was over $500 in there from my job. Rage boiled inside me. That money represented years of Eli's hard work and sacrifice. When Selena finally swanned in, I confronted her. "Give back Eli's money and his laptop now." She smirked. "Or what? You'll kick me out." I wanted to slap that smug look off her face. But violence wouldn't solve anything. Selena was toxic, destroying all she touched. I had to protect my family from her, even if it meant driving away Marcus's daughter for good. I decided right then and there. Selena had to go. Her toxic behavior was destroying our family, and I refused to let that continue. When Marcus came home, I told him what Selena had done. She stole from her own brother after we opened our home to her. I want her out, Marcus. Today. He looked pained. I know Selena's behavior is unacceptable, but she's still my daughter. If we kick her out now, she'll have nowhere to go. So we just let her keep stealing from us? I cried. She's manipulating you. Can't you see that? Give me a little more time to work things out with her, Marcus pleaded. With some boundaries, I think Selena can change. I shook my head in frustration. Marcus's parental guilt was blinding him to Selena's true nature. But I had to pick my battles carefully to avoid damaging my marriage. 1 week, I said. If her behavior doesn't improve drastically in 1 week, she has to leave. Marcus agreed reluctantly. I only hoped we could limit the damage Selena inflicted before then. But over the next few days, things only got worse. Selena stayed out partying all night, then slept past noon. She helped herself to my jewelry, claimed they were just loans. When I demanded she get a job, she scoffed. Why work when Daddy lets me stay here for free? One night, I came home to find her smoking on the couch. When I yelled at her to take it outside, she blew smoke in my face. You're not my mother. Don't tell me what to do. I felt sick, realizing the extent of Selena's manipulation. She knew exactly how to provoke me while acting sweetly innocent around Marcus. The final straw came when I received a call from my credit card company, asking about a suspicious purchase. Over $2,000 at a luxury clothing store in LA. It didn't take a genius to realize Selena had stolen my card. She'd racked up more debt in a week than Eli and I spent on food in a month. When Marcus came home, I confronted him, shaking with rage. Your daughter is destroying us. I want her out of this house tonight. Marcus's face was haggard. You're right. I wanted to believe Selena could change, but clearly she's out of control. It's me or her, Marcus, I said quietly. Choose carefully. He pulled me into a hug. You and Eli will always come first. I just pray we can get through this without tearing our family apart. We sat down with Selena, and Marcus told her she had to move out immediately. She flew into a rage, hurling insults and accusations. I stayed silent, letting Marcus handle his deranged daughter. When Selena stomped off to pack her things, Marcus put his head in his hands. I'm so sorry I brought this madness into our home, he said. You and Eli mean everything to me. However long it takes, I promise we'll recover from Selena's poison. I squeezed his hand, drawing strength from his words. With unity, we would survive this trial. Selena's twisted schemes could not break our family. The weeks after kicking out Selena were tense. Marcus tried calling her several times, but she refused to speak with him. I knew he was torn up with guilt, blaming himself for how she'd turned out. I tried reassuring him we'd done the right thing. Selena was like a tornado, destroying all in her path. We changed the locks and canceled my stolen credit card. The bank's fraud department was understanding, agreeing to waive the bogus charges. Slowly, our lives regained a sense of normalcy. Then the letter came, shattering that fragile peace all over again. It was from a bank I'd never heard of, thanking me for opening a new credit account. My breath caught in my throat as I read the attached paperwork. Someone had applied for a personal loan in my name, forging my signature on the forms. $15,000 already deposited into an unknown account. My hands shook with anger and panic. That amount of debt could devastate our family, and there was only one person who would stoop so low. When Marcus came home, I thrust the letter at him. Your daughter is trying to destroy us. We need to call the police. His eyes widened in shock as he read the letter. My God, I know Selena has issues, but outright identity theft? He slumped at the table, head in his hands. This is all my fault. I failed her as a father. My anger thawed slightly. As much as Selena infuriated me, I knew this betrayal devastated Marcus even more. I sat down beside him. You did your best with her under terrible circumstances. Some people just refuse to change. But now we need to focus on protecting ourselves and Eli. Will you call the police to report the fraud? Marcus sighed heavily, but nodded. You're right. I need to do the responsible thing, no matter how painful. We spent an agonizing hour on the phone with the police and bank, filing reports about Selena's crime. It still boggled my mind that the smiling little girl I remembered from Marcus's wedding photos could grow into this heartless criminal. The bank investigator informed us the loan had been taken out locally, meaning Selena was still lurking nearby. The thought made my skin crawl. That night, as we lay in bed, I turned to Marcus. "We'll get that loan invalidated. The bank believes we're the victims here." "I hope you're right," he said, "because if not, this could financially devastate us. We could even lose the house." The unspoken fear hung heavy between us. Selena wasn't content just poisoning her father's memory of her. She aimed to completely destroy his new family, no matter the cost. As I finally drifted off to sleep, I repeated a silent mantra. Selena's scheming couldn't touch us, no matter how hard she tried. Goodness and truth would prevail. But in my heart, I harbored a cold anger I'd never felt before. If Selena continued threatening my loved ones, I would stop at nothing to take her down. Over the next few weeks, we heard nothing from Selena. The bank was investigating the fraudulent loan, buying us time before the debts came due. The police had tried visiting Selena's last known address, but she'd already vacated her apartment, leaving no trace. Marcus spent hours scouring online records, trying to find where Selena had disappeared to, but it seemed she knew how to avoid being caught, a true con artist. Then on a sunny Saturday, everything changed again. Marcus was at a weekend teaching conference, so Eli and I decided to see a movie together. But when we returned home, I instantly sensed something was wrong. The front door was ajar. My pulse pounded as I rushed inside, Eli close behind. "Wait in the hall," I told him. If Selena was lurking inside, I didn't want Eli getting hurt. I crept forward, peering into the darkened rooms. At first, nothing seemed disturbed. Then I reached Eli's bedroom. The entire room had been ransacked. Dresser drawers flung open, mattress upended, closet ransacked. Eli rushed in behind me, crying out in shock. That's when I saw the paper on his bed scrawled with a taunting message, "College fund gone. Oops, better start bussing tables, loser brother." Red spots swam before my eyes. The college fund Marcus and I had painstakingly built for Eli, untouched until now nearly $20,000 for his future, was gone. Stolen by Selena to fund her extravagant tastes, while she left crude insults for the brother she'd never bothered to know. I heard a strangled sob behind me. Eli's face was white, eyes glittering with tears. "All that money you saved for me, gone." I wrapped my arms around my kind, diligent son, so undeserving of this cruelty. "We'll figure this out," I promised. But inside, my blood boiled. That money was meant to give Eli a chance at a better life. And Selena had snatched that dream away without a second thought. When Marcus arrived, he broke down at the violation of our home and Eli's loss. I rarely saw my soft-spoken husband enraged, but today his fury mirrored my own. Our savings drained, our locks picked, our son senselessly tormented. Enough was enough. Selena had to face consequences before she destroyed more innocent lives. The next evening, ignoring Marcus's warnings, I drove to the rundown motel where Selena was rumored to be staying. Sure enough, I spotted her beat-up hatchback out front. I banged on her door until she finally opened it, smirking when she saw me. "Well, if it isn't St. Lena, come to preach about morality?" I slapped her across the face. "You absolute monster," I spat. "Wasn't ruining our lives once enough for you?" Selena's grin vanished. "You'll regret that, Butch," she hissed, lunging toward me. We scuffled briefly before I shoved her back inside, slamming the door in her contorted face. I strode away, trembling but resolute. One way or another, Selena's reign of terror ended today. I had given her every chance to change. But some people rotted from the inside out, beyond hope of redemption. Dragging them from the darkness risked them pulling you down into their depths. Selena had proven herself a soulless parasite, incapable of goodness. Now it was time to excise her from our lives for good, before her fangs struck again. In the weeks after my confrontation with Selena, I waited on edge for her retaliation. Marcus increased security around our home. I pulled Eli from school, not wanting him alone until Selena was apprehended. But as days passed with no sign of her, we began to breathe easier. Maybe she had realized her crimes would catch up with her if she stayed in town. Then, late one night, I awoke to blaring fire alarms. Marcus and I rushed to Eli's room and found it filled with smoke, flames licking up one wall. We grabbed Eli and raced outside, moments before the fire engulfed his bedroom. As firefighters extinguished the blaze, suspicion gnawed at me. This was no electrical mishap. Selena had made her final, desperate play for revenge. The police investigation confirmed my fears. Traces of gasoline had been splashed along one side of the house and ignited. A disturbing amount, enough to incinerate us as we slept if the timing had been slightly off. Marcus's face was haggard as he spoke to the investigators. My daughter Selena Rogers is your arson suspect. We have evidence she committed identity theft and burglary against us. This fire was her latest attempt to harm my family. With the troubling revelations about Selena's escalating crimes, the police finally took serious action. They obtained security footage from nearby cameras, showing a figure in Selena's car fleeing the neighborhood right before firefighters arrived. Arrest warrants were issued. Selena's name and photo were distributed to local media, labeling her an armed and dangerous fugitive. Marcus even made a direct plea for Selena to turn herself in, promising she'd still receive due process. But Selena remained in hiding, our lives frozen in limbo as we waited for the snake to strike again. I stayed locked indoors with Eli, rifles and fire extinguishers within reach. She'd taken so much from us already. I refused to let her steal our sanity, too. Then late one evening, I got an unexpected call from the lead detective on our case, his voice urgent. You need to check the news right away. Selena Rogers was just apprehended. I grabbed Marcus and Eli, and we turned on the TV with trembling hands. A breaking news report showed Selena in handcuffs outside a pawn shop, stolen jewelry and electronics scattered at her feet. The very items she'd looted from our home. She cursed and spat at reporters as police stuffed her in a squad car. Selena had grown so convinced of her own invincibility that she'd slipped up and gotten caught red-handed. As the reporters recounted Selena's shocking crimes against her own family, her reputation lay in tatters, the real monster exposed underneath the pretty surface. I almost pitied her. Almost. That night, with Selena in a cell and our home protected, we finally slept in peace. The next weeks would be difficult, untangling the wreckage Selena left behind. But the storm had passed. Her lies could haunt us no more. A new dawn had broken, full of promise and hope. In the weeks after Selena's arrest, we slowly regained a sense of normalcy. With Selena locked up on multiple felony charges, the dark cloud that had choked our home finally lifted. I took Eli out for belated birthday celebrations at his favorite restaurants. Marcus and I spent evenings reminiscing about happier times before Selena's arrival. We started making plans to repair the fire damage and replenish our drained finances. There were still court dates looming. Marcus agonized over having to testify against his eldest daughter, no matter how estranged they'd become. I tried to steel my heart, reminding myself of all the suffering Selena had inflicted. Then we received shocking news. While in jail awaiting her trial, Selena had gotten into a violent fight with another inmate. The details were murky, but the results were clear. Selena was dead. Marcus took the news hardest of all. He locked himself in our room for days, torn apart with guilt. I focused my energy on comforting Eli, who despite everything felt saddened at the loss of a sister he'd never known. In the weeks that followed, we learned more disturbing details about Selena's final days. The inmate she'd clashed with claimed Selena had bragged about the rush she got from deceiving people, saying she wished she'd stolen triple the amount from us. Hearing Selena's callous words helped harden my heart. She'd felt no remorse for destroying lives. In the end, her greed and aggression had collided with someone equally vicious. With Selena gone, the case against her unraveled quickly. The bank rescinded her bogus loan applications, removing that crushing debt burden. The police helped retrieve some of our stolen funds from her apartment and storage unit. At the same time, sympathies poured in from our community, people horrified at Selena's behavior once her crimes became public. Many had known Marcus and I as a loving couple and parents for over a decade. They rallied around us, raising money to help Eli pay his college tuition. Their generosity stunned me. After writhing in Selena's web of isolation and deceit, the support of true friends felt like waking up from a nightmare. I saw it dawn on Marcus, too. We were not alone. Good people could conquer evil together. On the anniversary of Selena's death, we visited her grave for the first and only time. Marcus knelt by the modest stone and whispered a prayer. I stood back with Eli, giving them space. She wasn't born bad, Eli said quietly. Do you think if she'd made different choices, she could have been happy? I hugged my wise son close. I think we all forge our own path. Selena chose destruction, but life marches on. Now we walk in the light again. Marcus joined us, finally looking at peace. He took my hand, a gentle smile on his face. Thank you for staying by my side, he said. Your love guided me out of the darkness. Together, we turned and walked into the sunset, leaving Selena's tempestuous ghost behind. The future awaited, bright and full of hope. In the months after Selena's death, our family slowly healed. The fire damage was repaired, stolen money recovered, debts settled. Bit by bit, we reclaimed what Selena had tried destroying. But some wounds aren't visible. I woke choking from nightmares of flames engulfing our home. Marcus withdrew into himself for days at a time, brooding with guilt, and Eli became quieter, jumping at small noises and keeping his bedroom door locked. So I suggested we start seeing a family counselor. At first, Marcus resisted, ashamed at needing help, but eventually he agreed it was necessary to fully mend our battered spirits. Our sessions proved intensely cathartic. We spoke of betrayal, violation, anger. The counselor taught us coping techniques for anxiety and PTSD. He urged us to vocalize our feelings rather than bottling them up, which had strained my relationship with the brooding Marcus. I discovered depths of pain in Marcus I'd never realized. He admitted part of his desperation to help Selena stemmed from regret over his failures with her as a child during his divorce. The counselor eased his shame, reframing his efforts as misguided rather than malicious. For Eli, the greatest solace came from restoring normal routines. He rejoined school sports teams, volunteered at a homeless shelter, and took a part-time job at an ice cream parlor. Focusing on productivity and community engagement helped alleviate his sense of helplessness. 6 months later, with our counselor's approval, we decided to close the book on our tribulations with Selena. We used the last of her recovered stolen money to take a family trip to Hawaii, visiting breathtaking beaches and eating decadent dinners. No friction, no drama, just joyful quality time together. On the final night, Marcus and I renewed our vows on the beach under a sunset, Eli proudly officiating. I gazed lovingly at my two men, my champions. Selena had tried tearing us apart. Instead, we'd emerged stronger than ever. Not all scars fully disappear, but you can choose to wear them proudly, refusing to let past pain define you. Our family embodied that resilience. On the plane ride home, I penned a journal entry I later shared with Marcus and Eli. The past year contained agonizing trials, but also profound growth. We cling closer now, wounds healed into wisdom. Selena acted as a wicked knife, slicing open old injuries and inflicting new ones. But we three are the stitching, holding fast, binding up the cuts, making whole what was rent. Our imperfect family will not just survive, but thrive. The darkness recedes, healing dawns, and the light everlasting remains. Later that week, I tucked my journal away in a keepsake box. The final remnants of Selena's ruination, trial transcripts, bank statements, police reports, went into the trash for good. Marcus hugged me close. It's finally over, he said. Now we build something beautiful from the ashes. I smiled up at my husband, then pulled Eli into our embrace. The storm had passed, our lives stretched ahead, sunny and bright, and we would walk this new path arm in arm, faces tilted toward the light. How lovely to see my beautiful wife's radiant smile, Derek said, raising his glass in a toast. I froze, my grin melting faster than ice on a hot summer day. Wife? Radiant? I hadn't smiled in months. I scanned the formally set dining table that I certainly hadn't helped prepare. His family surrounded us, beaming. My own kinspersons were notably absent. Not that it mattered. After all, this dinner was to celebrate Derek's latest achievement, a fancy promotion or award or something. I had stopped listening to the specifics a while ago. Derek rambled on, the perfect host entertaining his perfect guests. I stared at my plate, pushing the expertly cooked food around with my fork, my appetite gone. He gestured expansively, praising his own culinary skills. Culinary skills I never knew he had. In our year of marriage, I had never once seen that man step foot in a kitchen. I dropped my fork, the clatter muted by the embroidered tablecloth. When exactly did you learn to cook a gourmet meal? I asked pointedly. Considering all your recent business trips, I wasn't aware you had time to take cooking classes. An uncomfortable silence blanketed the table. I ignored it, focusing on Derek's reaction. Shock, Then annoyance flashed across his face. He quickly schooled his features behind his trademark plastic smile. "Leanna, what a sense of humor you have." His forced laugh sounded shrill and panicked to my ears. "Good. You know my presentations run late, so I often have working dinners with clients." I raised a single eyebrow. "And these clients also taught you to expertly fillet a sea bass?" His father leapt to Derek's defense. "Now, Leanna," Calvin admonished, "you should be grateful for Derek's tireless work ethic. It's provided you with this lifestyle. Designer clothes, luxury vehicles, extravagant vacations." I bristled, biting back the retort poised on my tongue. My so-called lifestyle was nothing more than a gilded cage paid for with Derek's blood money, or at least the money I had assumed was his. Now doubts needled my mind. Forcing a tight smile, I turned to Derek's mother and deftly changed the subject. As she prattled on about her garden club, my thoughts roiled. When had Derek become so skilled in deception? More importantly, what else had he lied about? I needed answers. After the endless evening finally ended, I cornered Derek in our opulent living room. Hands on hips, I confronted his dishonesty. "I want the truth," I demanded. "No more lies or omissions." Derek's facade fully shattered, his handsome face twisting spitefully. "You humiliated me tonight with your baseless accusations," he snarled. I fought to maintain my composure. "Then prove me wrong," I challenged. His lips flattened into a hard, angry line. Then he turned abruptly and stalked out without another word. I watched him go, my heart cracking. In his icy silence I found all the proof I needed. My picture-perfect marriage now lay exposed as a complete sham. I had twisted myself to fit the role of perfect wife, quitting my job, relinquishing my own dreams and desires in favor of supporting Derek's ambitions. All because I believed our love to be real. That belief had rooted me when loneliness crept in, when doubt whispered insidiously that something wasn't right. No more. I refused to continue living this lie of a marriage. If Derek wouldn't give me the truth willingly, then I would just have to discover it for myself. The silence in our cavernous apartment pressed down on me, cold and heavy like a leaden shroud. I wandered listlessly between the ornate yet impersonal rooms, absently trailing one hand along the smooth marble countertops and luxury furnishings. What was once filled with promise and possibility now echoed with loss and regret in the all-consuming emptiness. I paused before the window overlooking the glittering city lights, a view that once inspired awe but now only emphasized my isolation 30 stories up in this tower of steel and glass, like a modern-day Rapunzel trapped in her own illusion of happiness. When had that illusion shattered completely? When had the emotional chasm between Derek and I become so vast? The changes had crept slowly, distance growing insidiously like black mold behind walls, invisible yet toxic. His long hours at the office stretched into weekends away at conferences, which blurred into overseas business trips. The trips came frequently now, often at a moment's notice. "Emergency client meetings," Derek would claim in his smooth voice after I'd confront him about a last-minute canceled dinner or trip. His words slipped between us as insubstantial as smoke, their plausibility eroding a little more each time. Something sinister lurked behind his well-crafted excuses. I sensed it in my marrow. Derek hid a dark truth, one he desperately did not want discovered. Well, the jig was up. After that disastrous dinner, I refused to swallow his lies any longer. My phone vibrated in my pocket, jolting me from my spiraling thoughts. Expecting Derek's name, a puzzled frown pulled my lips down when I saw the caller ID. My mother was the one person more enamored of Derek than I once was, ruthlessly pushing me toward marriage. For her to call was highly unusual. I slid my thumb across the screen, lifting the phone to my ear. "Leanna, thank God you answered." Her shrill voice was devoid of any warmth or affection. Before I could reply, she ranted on. "How could you embarrass Derek like that in front of his family? And then make a dramatic scene by leaving early? Have you lost all sense of propriety?" I blinked hard against the sting of tears. Of course she would take Derek's side, even over her own daughters. I drew in a long breath. Perhaps if either of you bothered to include me in family events, I might know how to behave properly. Bitterness roughened my words. Or was I supposed to intuit the expectations telepathically? A contemptuous sniff rattled through the line. There are no expectations for absent wives too self-absorbed in their own little worlds to support their hard-working husbands. She paused, then continued in a vicious tone meant to demean, "Then again, Derek deserved better. A woman not so lacking in beauty or talent." Her criticism pierced my fragile confidence with the precision of an arrow, threatening emotional hemorrhaging. Gasping raggedly, I stabbed at the red circle on screen, ending the call before she could further shred my self-worth. Tears blurred my vision, but I refused to let them fall. How dare she attack me when I was the injured party? Derek's deceit apparently spread beyond ruining my reputation with his family. He had turned my own mother against me. Red-hot fury kindled in my gut, the flames fueled by pain and betrayal. If Derek insisted upon war, then I would not hesitate to scorch the earth to root him out. I swiped angrily at my eyes. No more tears, no more weakness. I needed to know exactly what Derek plotted in the dark shadows. Time to hunt down an informant capable of illuminating his lies. I scrutinized the business card clutched in my sweaty palm, memorizing the embossed lettering. George McNamara, private investigator. My last resort gleamed like a beacon of hope in the murky confusion my life had become. With courage fueled by desperation, I pushed through the nondescript door into McNamara's office. The space matched my expectations. Dimly lit, dusty Venetian blinds half drawn, filing cabinet in the corner. Behind a battle-scarred desk sat a bear of a man, his keen azure eyes belying his otherwise rumpled appearance. McNamara studied me, bushy salt-and-pepper eyebrows raised. "Mrs. Dalton, I presume?" His gravelly voice reminded me of worn truck tires rolling over gravel. I nodded, perching on the edge of the visitor's chair. My words tumbled out in a rush as I detailed my suspicions, ending with a plea. "I know he's hiding something, but I can't prove it. Please, you have to help me find the truth." The private eye leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled under his chin as he listened intently, his piercing gaze cataloging everything from my strained tone to my disheveled appearance. I squirmed under his scrutiny, painfully aware of how I must look with lank hair, yesterday's smudged makeup, and the same yoga pants and baggy sweater I'd worn for 3 days now. Hardly the image of a successful businessman's wife. Finally, McNamara leaned forward, his expression deadly serious. "I'll take the case, but brace yourself. The truth isn't always pretty." Relief loosened the tight coils of anxiety in my chest. I just need to know one way or another. The not knowing is eating me alive. I meant that literally, as I couldn't remember the last time I managed to choke down more than a few bites of food or a few fitful hours of nightmare-plagued sleep. This had to end. McNamara promised daily updates as he launched immediately into his investigation. I left his office feeling lighter than I had in ages, as if fresh air finally circulated in my oppressed lungs. The sensation lasted mere hours, popped like an iridescent soap bubble by my trilling cell phone. Caller ID announced the impending pinprick. Calvin Dalton. Wonderful. "Leanna Ellen Dalton," my father-in-law thundered without preamble. "How dare you smear Derek's good name with your family by spreading such atrocious lies? He is the most devoted, hard-working husband a woman could dream of having. That you fail to adequately support him is your deficiency, not his." Calvin ranted on as I sat stunned, his accusations striking me like physical blows. At last, the initial shock wore off, replaced by smoldering anger and a deep sense of betrayal. Derek continued spinning his web of lies, further undermining me with my own family. This time he had gone too far. I would not let him impugn my character, so my reputation lay in tatters while he played the martyr. "That is enough," I shouted into the phone, startling Calvin to silence. "The only one spreading lies is your precious son. Do not call me again with your misguided vitriol, because I will not listen to another word against my good name." I violently stabbed at the red icon on my phone screen, ending the call with a defiant jab. Blood roared in my ears and my breath came in ragged pants, fury simmering my blood. Derek insisted on playing dirty by ruining my family relationships? Fine. Then it was past time I fight back on his level. No more cowering in corners for me. I strode up the walkway lined with precisely trimmed box hedges to the sprawling Dalton family mansion, chin lifted with moxie mostly feigned. Time to face the lion's den. When Calvin phoned yesterday, insisting my presence was mandatory at some family milestone for Derek's sister Diana, I knew it for the ambush it was. Another opportunity for the Daltons to barrage me with condemnation for daring to sully their golden child's good reputation. Well, I refused to be the only target remaining in this vicious battle. Tonight, their famed perfect family dynamic would finally crack and splinter under the weight of truth too long suppressed. I just prayed my backbone would hold steady under their inevitable vitriol. Squaring my shoulders as if preparing for battle, I pressed the ornate doorbell. Calvin himself flung open the immense oak door, his usual genial smile replaced by a patronizing smirk. "Leanna, so glad you could join us tonight." The sarcasm dripped from each word like venom. "Right this way." He ushered me not into the house's soaring foyer but along the covered porch toward the rear veranda. Curious family members peered through curtained windows as we passed. My cheeks flamed, but I refused to show any weakness, spine rigid, and gaze focused straight ahead. We stepped through wide French doors onto the expansive flagstone patio swarmed with Dalton relatives under twinkle lights, like fireflies winking merrily in counterpoint to the building tension crackling through the space. Calvin guided me to the outdoor living area beside a massive stone fireplace where Derek perched on a leather sofa, every inch the conquering hero. "Leanna decided to grace us with her presence after all," Calvin proclaimed loudly with hand gestures as if presenting a zoo animal. "Shall we allow her a chance to defend her reprehensible behavior?" A tight smile stretched my lips, though fury blazed in my eyes. So that was their play then. Fine by me. I cleared my throat delicately, then launched into my counterattack. "Actually, Calvin, I believe it is your son who owes everyone here an explanation." Gasps rippled through the crowd, but I pressed on recklessly. "The only behavior I'm guilty of is being foolish enough to trust a man apparently devoid of integrity." Murmurs rose as all eyes pivoted to Derek, still lounging arrogantly on the couch, one ankle propped casually atop the opposite knee. Though tension bracketed his mouth, he appeared nonplussed. "And pray tell, what lapse in integrity have I displayed?" Derek snapped caustically. "Working hard to support my wife so she may spend her days lunching and shopping to her heart's content?" Anger flared. Did he truly fail to comprehend the depth of his betrayal? I trembled with suppressed rage. "Do not attempt to twist facts with your distorted view of reality." My voice rang clearly in the sudden silence. "You know precisely what I reference. The days and nights you claimed were filled with important meetings while you deliberately concealed your true activities." I paused, pinning him with an unrelenting stare. "Who exactly have you been frequenting that condo on Park Avenue with Derek, and why have you purposefully hidden the truth from me?" The assembled family members inhaled their shock in unison. Eyes widened, shifted back to Derek. After an extended tense moment, my mother-in-law Millie broke the ringing quiet. "Well, how about a nice family picture?" Her falsely bright tone belied the panic in her eyes as the family illusion of perfection rapidly unraveled at the seams. I slid behind the wheel of my slate-gray Acura, pulse thrumming with exhilaration. Confronting Derek and his family's blindness to his faults filled me with crackling energy despite the sting of burns from their acidic contempt. However, my bravado shriveled when faced with the monumental task still ahead, proving Derek's infidelity. I twisted the key in the ignition. Time to do some detective work of my own. Pulling from the driveway, I headed toward Derek's sleek downtown office building, making good time in the sparse Sunday evening traffic. I eased into a spot in the shadowed parking garage, killing the lights but leaving the engine idling. Now to see if my wayward husband planned on logging weekend overtime tonight as well. I didn't have long to wait before a cherry-red Jaguar roared up to the executive parking section in the corner. I straightened in my seat, straining to confirm the driver's identity in the intermittent fluorescent lighting. Please let instincts be correct just this once. Then the interior flared to life as he opened the door and leaned in to gather his briefcase. Jackpot! My pulse leapt as Derek's handsome face was briefly illuminated. I watched him breeze inside, without glancing around like a man with a clear purpose. Where could he possibly be going this late on a Sunday? The offices stood dark and deserted on weekends, except perhaps for a clandestine rendezvous with that mystery woman I guessed awaited somewhere within. Drumming my fingers impatiently on the steering wheel, I weighed options: confront Derek directly and risk him slipping away, or trail him covertly to uncover the sordid truth. Given his talent for manipulation, I decided surveillance was my smartest, if not exactly noblest, choice. If I approached without concrete proof, he would undoubtedly twist scenarios and cast doubts until ending up the aggrieved innocent. Well, not this time, buddy. I cranked my engine and crept from the garage, catching sight of Derek's Jag pulling smoothly into traffic. Keeping a few vehicles between us, I shadowed him to an upscale condo tower 10 minutes away. Of course, the infamous Park Avenue property I had confronted him about just yesterday. At least now I knew for certain his denial was yet another bald-faced lie woven with practiced ease. No innocent reason existed for Derek to frequent an expensive condo clearly intended for clandestine affairs. I watched him swagger inside without a backwards glance. The private investigator I hired earlier this week likely knew all the specifics: who owned the property, how often Derek visited, and most importantly, who he met there. I just had to be patient and maintain surveillance until I received the PI's condemning report. Still, curiosity needled me. Who was worth risking his marriage and reputation over? Did Derek sneak off for secret romantic trysts with his assistant, a stranger from a seedy website for married affairs? Bile burned the back of my throat. Whoever she was, one thing seemed certain: this likely wasn't her first tango with a married man. Clearly an experienced predator. For now, I had seen enough. Starting my car, I pointed it back toward the privacy of my own apartment where I could call McNamara. Surely, he already possessed evidence revealing the depth of Derek's tangled web of lies and betrayal. I only hoped revealing that treachery to his beloved family would finally splinter Derek's picture-perfect illusions into jagged shards too sharp to repair. My soon-to-be ex-husband was overdue for a brutal wake-up call. I strode purposely into the lavishly decorated ballroom, chin lifted with confidence I didn't entirely feel. Time for the main event, publicly exposing Derek's duplicity to his family's elite social circle. I paused in the double doorway, scanning the room until I spotted my target holding court in the center of a sycophantic knot of businessmen. Gotcha. Adjusting my new designer cocktail dress, I glided through the room straight toward Derek, smiling toothily. The wolf entering the den of lions. Disengaging from his group with a puzzled frown, Derek moved to intercept me. "Leanna, what are you doing here?" I blinked innocently, attending my husband's important event just as a supportive spouse should. Wariness crept into his expression as his mouth tightened. Clearly he suspected brewing trouble. Good instincts. We faced off silently in the middle of the ornate room, tension charging the atmosphere like gathering thunderclouds. I relished stretching this moment, making Derek squirm. "Is that why you're wearing a sexy new dress and your hair styled?" He made an effort to keep his tone neutral, but his darting eyes betrayed unease. "Of course. I'm playing the glamorous wife tonight since your little mistress couldn't attend." My smile turned razor sharp. Gotcha. Derek actually paled beneath his artfully stubbled beard. "Leanna, I don't know what nonsense you're spewing now, but clearly you're confused. Oh, let's dispense with the lies for once." My voice rang out clearly in the sudden hush radiating through the room as all eyes pivoted toward us, standing in the center of the ornate space. I welcomed the rapt audience for Derek's imminent humiliation. Pulling a plain manila envelope from my small clutch with a dramatic flourish, I withdrew an 8x10 photograph capturing Derek in a passionate embrace with a gorgeous brunette, locked in a deep kiss as they entered an apartment building. His extravagant condo. "This looks like all the proof anyone needs of your flagrant infidelity." I held up the incriminating evidence with a flourish as horrified gasps echoed. Derek lunged unsuccessfully to grab the photo. Gotcha again. Derek visibly crumbled before my eyes, impressive facade eroding. Gone was the urbane businessman's schmoozing associates, leaving a pathetically crushed man in an overpriced suit. Calvin shoved through the stunned onlookers, bravado weakened by distress. "Son, this can't possibly be true. Explain yourself." Behind him, Derek's mother Millie dissolved into tearful hysterics, supported by her best friend Lorraine. Derek just stood mute, shoulders slumped and eyes clouded with despair. In that moment, he resembled a lost little boy more than a captain of industry. I recognized divorce's costly price, stamped raw across his face, his family standing in tattered ruins alongside our destroyed marriage. "Get out!" Calvin thundered, face mottled purple with rage as he pointed a rigid finger toward the exit. "Don't expect sympathy or support from any of us after this ultimate betrayal." Derek cringed, nodding sadly before stumbling away on legs noticeably unsteady. The room unleashed a chaotic maelstrom of accusatory voices and racking sobs. I held myself tall amongst the debris, finally vindicated. My husband's spectacle of lies had collapsed like the House of Usher under the weight of truth. Now to see if its destruction freed me to rebuild my own life atop the rubble. I eased my sleek sedan against the curb half a block down from the imposing Dalton family manor, eyeing the flurry of activity outside the impressive home. The day after my nuclear detonation of Derek's established world order at the gala, and still the fallout continued. My lips quirked. Several days of relentless phone calls to the family matriarch finally resulted in this meeting with Millie. Time to find out whether the scales had fallen from her eyes yet regarding her fraudulent son's battered halo. My odds looked hopeful, judging by the catering vans and carpet cleaners steadily arriving, clearly preparing for my prodigal return to the family fold. I rummaged in my designer purse until fingers closed around cool metal. Extracting a heavy brass key, I rubbed my thumb across the ornate D embossed on the bow. The key to the kingdom, well, at least access to the Dalton family lair. A peace offering presented years ago by Millie herself when I first married her precious only son. "Welcome to the family, sweetheart," she had exclaimed while pressing the weighty token into my palm. Then she pulled me into a warm, jasmine-scented hug that felt like coming home. I clung to that tender gesture now like a talisman, hoping enough maternal love lingered to bridge chasms torn wide by betrayal. After one last steadying breath, I slipped from the safety of my vehicle and clicked steadily up the paved walkway in my highest confidence-boosting heels. Time to face the lion's den. I pressed the brass key home, then eased the towering oak door open. "Millie?" I called tentatively. "It's Leanna." A slender blonde whirlwind exploded from a side parlor, fielding me in a ferocious embrace redolent in Chanel No. 5. "Leanna, my beautiful girl," Millie chirped brightly. "We have so much catching up to do." Over steaming mugs of Earl Grey poured from heirloom china, whole stories spilled out in a cathartic rush. Of Derek's chronic detachment from his wife, the insidious isolation as he deliberately estranged me from family, his pathological lies spinning fictions until no truth remained. I knew something lurked beneath the surface, but I never imagined betrayal this cruel. Millie's weary eyes swam with fresh tears even now. My own child capable of such calculated deception, and toward those he supposedly loved. I reached across the polished mahogany table to grasp her graceful hands in mine. Derek alone owns responsibility for trading real relationships for superficial gain. I gentled my voice, adding with soft fervency, "But you and I finding understanding today that finally feels like hope rising from the ashes." A watery yet true smile graced Millie's lips for the first time since I arrived. "Oh, Leanna, of course I still love you like a daughter. We women must stick together now to heal these wounds." Sudden resolve hardened her delicate jawline, starting by cutting off Derek and his harlots completely. I blinked in surprise. "Does this mean?" Millie nodded vehemently. "You were right confronting Derek's cheating publicly at the gala. His betrayal can't be concealed and forgiven. I should know." She broke off suddenly, waving one manicured hand as if swatting the past aside. "Regardless, there must be consequences for such deception." I probed cautiously. "Like withdrawing financial support so he can't continue living the high life with his mistress?" A ruthless glint sparked in Millie's eyes. "Exactly. Let the flashy leech pay his own bills for a change instead of tapping our accounts. Without money to burn, his bedazzled bimbo won't stick around anyway." She shrugged delicately. "Serves him right for upending our entire family with his lies." For the first time since confronting Derek, bright hope pierced my heart. His own mother finally grasped the scope of his cruelty and now aligned firmly by my side. Together we would ensure Derek never destroyed an innocent woman again. Justice would be done. I rolled over with a luxuriant stretch, sunbeams tickling my face filtered softly through gauzy curtains. A glance at the clock confirmed I had indulged in a delightfully decadent mid-morning lie-in, without any obligations dragging me from the cozy nest of down-stuffed comforters. I could definitely become accustomed to leisurely mornings like this. Swinging my legs out of bed, I padded across artfully weathered hardwood floors and thick Turkish rugs to fling wide the curtains framing glass doors overlooking downtown. Beautiful morning sunshine glinted off skyscraper windows outside my panoramic penthouse view. I sighed happily. This new condo was everything my old place had not been. Bright, airy, and filled with possibility, just like this next chapter of my life. A knock interrupted my contented musings. I tugged a satin robe over my camisole pajamas and hurried to greet my guest. Swinging the door wide, I welcomed the aromas of freshly brewed coffee and warm pastries. "Good morning, gorgeous." Millie bustled in, bearing breakfast. "I thought we could celebrate over this lovely spread from that French patisserie you adore." Soon we relaxed together on the balcony, fueling girl talk with lattes and croissants while cawing seagulls wheeled over the skyline. I confessed the truth, I could barely acknowledge myself these past painful years. I knew in my core something was wrong almost from the beginning, I admitted quietly, eyes downcast. I felt Derek's emotional distance even during our honeymoon. Millie squeezed my hand supportively. "Yet you persevered because you're resilient and caring by nature." Her tone turned fierce. "But my son didn't deserve your beautiful spirit. He's proven completely unworthy." I brushed crumbs off my hands, appetite fading. If only I had trusted my instincts instead of making excuses. "Darling, stop punishing yourself. Hindsight brings clarity about red flags, but the present grants opportunity." Millie took my hands firmly, compelling my gaze to hers, glowing with conviction. "Now you're free to seek someone who truly cherishes you." I offered a tremulous smile, encouraged by her staunch validation. My phone chirped brightly. Glancing at the screen, my pulse quickened, seeing my lawyer's name. I answered immediately. "Leanna Dalton speaking? Yes?" Millie watched closely as I began grinning wildly. "That's wonderful news. Thank you for all your dedicated hard work securing this outcome." I disconnected the call and victoriously pumped both fists overhead. "My divorce is finalized at last. The judge approved my request given Derek's infidelity, and..." I drew out the dramatic moment. "I received 75% of all marital assets." Millie cheered loudly, grabbing my hands as we danced an impromptu jig. "Hallelujah! That philandering snake got his financial comeuppance. And you, my resourceful dear, are awarded means to make a fresh start on your own terms." I threw my arms around Millie, hugging her tightly with joyful abandon. Despite heartbreak and bitter struggles, I had reclaimed independence and self-respect by ultimately trusting my inner wisdom. Never again would any man devalue my worth or make me question my sanity. From now on, I shone as brightly as the blazing sunrise, lighting my path to a beautiful life of my own design. The future unfurled, filled with radiant possibility and hope.